get, that's too big a word. That's like mayonnaise. I'm sure that's the biggest word I know.
Hello, everyone, and welcome on in to the Unabated Fall Preview. As the audio is going on behind me as well, I'm getting double there, but hey, welcome on in, everybody. Thank you so much for being here for the Unabated Fall Preview today. I am so excited to be bringing this to you. We have a fantastic slate scheduled over the next several hours here for you. I'm Scott Hansoning it today. It is going to be at least a 2-hour stream, probably a little more. We're going to lead right up into that LSU USC game going on tonight. We're going to be talking college ball, NFL, the Unabated tools, how you can use them. We're going to be getting everybody from here right with me to start off the show. To my left and on my right, none other than Chris K from our college football projections team. We're going to be leading it off talking about how you can use the Unabated simulator, the Unabated Prop Simulator, for all of your proppy goodness needs for the college football season, the NFL, and more. We have so many great guests today. Rufus Peabody is going to be joining us to talk about the college football season simulator that we have just released as well. We've got Derek Carty coming in to talk NFL props, Davis Mattek talking DFS, and of course, Captain Jack is going to be sitting down with us to talk a little bit about in-game betting for the season, and we'll be bringing on Adam Bjorn as well so that he can give the view on the NFL season from the other side of the counter. And of course, through all of this, we're going to be answering your questions as well. So feel free to drop them in the chat. Thank you so much for being here with us. It is a pleasure to have y'all. And I want to remind you one more time before we get started, if you're not already a subscriber to at least the YouTube channel here at unabated.com, please hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Let's start blowing up the stream early here. I'll remind you as we go on. But for now, that is going to conclude the beginning of my spiel here. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome on in Chris K from our Unabated college football team. Chris, it is a pleasure to be here with you once again, my friend, even though we did not get those Jeremy Bernard props last night.
Yeah, that was college football can be a weird one. I think he basically had like Jalen Miller, 6 passing attempts in the first half. Game was over, and RIP. But there were some other good ones.
Attempts in a game where they were leading by what, 35 at the half?
Like 35 or 42 at the half. Yeah, they kind of got out of hand real quick. But more for the taking in the future. I still have confidence in Jeremy. He led the team in routes run, so we're there.
There we go. That's what it's all about. And you know that leads us into a good question to get started off here. You are, of course, one of the guys behind our college football projections here. And one of the things that you look for when you're building those is volume. We might not have hit it week one with that particular one, but overall, what do you think after week one? How are you feeling? How are the projections going over the first day? Of course, anecdotally, not necessarily pulling out hard numbers here, but talk me through where you're at after one day of college football this season.
I'm feeling good. I mean, technically, we had week 0, so we've had 2 weeks of this. The week 0 went pretty well. We lost some on DJU, but we're never going to do DJU overs again. We've learned never going to happen again. But here, week 1 was great start. We had some fun with the TCU Stanford game. We just chatted about that one on Friday on the show, and then there were so many edges. I can't give you like a definitive number. It's insane. I was thinking about this morning, like, how did we do? Like, because the first thing I'm thinking of on Sunday mornings is like, how did we do? What do we need to like keep in the back of our mind? It's only one game. We're not going to make any drastic changes, but want to make sure we're conscious of what's going on in the game and the different changes year over year. So I feel pretty good about it. We got some good action tonight and tomorrow, and hopefully those that are checking us out can take advantage of it.
That's right. And we're going to be showing off the tools and how they work here in just a second. But why don't you talk the people, give the people the intro to the realist Chris K here. A little bit of background about you, what it is that you do here at Unabated, and then we'll start rolling into some of these tools and start talking, because we do have a good schedule here. At 2:30, Rufus is going to be coming on, but that means we have 20 minutes to go through the tools here.
Perfect. Yeah. College baseball player, played a little independent league baseball, but always loved college football. I mean, you go to Virginia Tech and you experience Enter Sandman and the culture and the great games, and you had some good years with Tyrod Taylor. And so you just love the passion of it all, and just started working with Unabated last season, but have been doing projections and playing DFS myself for projections creating for about 5 years, playing just loosely for about 7 or 8 years. So I've been doing it a long time. I even do like season long. I do Dynasty. The ROI on that stuff is like horrible, but I just love following it all year long. The freshmen, the transfer portal, all the crazy bowl games and all that type of stuff in between. So just been doing that for about 7-8 years and really been enjoying it. I mean, more particularly Daily Roto. I used to work with that company back in the day. That's where I met Ben and Glenn. I dabbled with CFL a while back when I was first dating my wife. I think she's pretty happy that I don't follow CFL the way I used to. I think there's a difference between CFB and CFL, and I think she's happy about that. But huge college football fan. I put my kid at my parents yesterday so I could get about 8-9 hours of grinding out games and projections and stuff. That's my parents love it, but I also love it. So it's a passion and a little bit crazy at times for sure.
Hey, the hardcore dedication to the game. My favorite college football game I was ever at was a Virginia Tech game.
Which one?
It was the one where Syracuse upset you guys in the Dome when you were ranked like 12th or something or 20th or something in the country, and we got to storm the field.
That's a pretty sick game. I was at it was not a great game for us, but I was at the Matt Ryan Hail Mary Boston College.
Oh, wow.
That's 2007 year when Virginia Tech was at the top. I think like USF was at the top. Boston College was elite with Matt Ryan and dominating the whole game, and then just did a horrible job for 2 minutes, and that's all it took. So see some good games, but that's Syracuse one at the Carrier Dome, right?
Yep.
Where is there AC at the Carrier Dome? I've heard rumors that there's not.
So there is now, and so now they no longer call it the Carrier Dome. It's now the JMA Wireless Dome. The irony being there is now AC there, so they got rid of the AC sponsorship, and they now have a wireless carrier, despite the fact that you cannot get cell signal in that concrete bunker.
I think that's a common theme, but that is pretty ironic with the carrier piece to it. But yeah, I remember that one. Unfortunately, yeah, we've had some bummers of games more recently, but last night or yesterday, I should say specifically. Gosh, that was a tough one against Vanderbilt. But
yeah, that was a rough one. But hey, beauty of the expanded college football playoff, it means you're not quite out of it yet, even though, let's face it, if the ACC is sending more than one delegate, I'm going to be surprised here at this point.
I mean, you never know. You'd have to really run the table, right? I mean, people have done it in the past just strictly with the 4-teamer, but I think the way this playoff is built out with 12 teams and only one automatic G5 team, you're going to get like 3 SEC, 3 Big Ten, and 2 ACC, 2 Big 12. That sounds about right. And then a mixture. So 2 teams will make it. It's not like Clemson was all that impressive yesterday. So Florida State's already got a loss. Pretty much everybody that's at the top of the ACC going into the year has already got an L. So comes down to the ACC play for sure.
Syracuse is 1-0 though. We're starting off right here.
Rondé Gadsden back with style. That was he was severely mispriced. If you play DFS, he was like essentially minimum, and he had a huge game. Not surprised. We'll see how that changes over the next week for sure.
Yes, we will. But enough waxing on about our teams here. As DT plus the points is the first one to break the seal in the chat here and say it is so frustrating because college player props are not widely available. And yeah, that is the reality of the college player prop market. It's certainly, especially after the Jonte Porter fiasco, places started cracking down a little bit more on props in general, which sucks. But when you can get down these numbers, and there are some shops. What are some shops around that really do give you college prop numbers?
I mean, there's pretty much books everywhere. It just depends on the state. I was just in Ohio last week, and I couldn't do anything fun. Like I couldn't do Underdog. I couldn't do individual props. If you live in like New York, New Jersey, you go to one place for one and one for the other. I live in Georgia, so I only have Underdog and Prizepicks, but do frequent Kentucky where I can bet individual props and stuff like that. So just get creative with your trips. Maybe move to the border of a state that's helpful, or find one of those states where you can do everything and anything, unfortunately. But yeah, I think where we're at now, I don't see anything changing for a couple of years, 2, 3, 4 years down the line. I could see things change, but I don't know how, with college football being such a big money business, you could act like individual props is what's going to keep kids from doing things, right? Like Jonte Porter stuff was just ignorant and dumb, right? College kids can be that way too, but like me being able to bet on Underdog is not changing that, no one's giving you that much money for that type of thing. So we'll see what happens with it, but I think we have some years to go.
Yeah. But for now, Let's start talking about the Unabated Prop Simulator here. We've got our prop screen up. We're on our college football prop site here, and we've got our Unabated concierge projections loaded up. So if people are a member of Unabated here and getting the projections, when can they expect these to drop most weeks? How are you guys navigating like the difference between Maction and Thursday night, Friday night? Because football's on every night of the week now. What's going on?
Yeah, so we're going to really focus. I mean, Saturday is going to be the utmost importance. We talked about it on Friday, right? In that college football show that we're going to continue to do. Saturday and always the big games. You know, we want to make sure if there are multiple games that make sense to do, like tonight and tomorrow there are games, so we want to make that available. They're big games. Nothing else is on TV, so we definitely keep it in the back of our mind. Hey, like let's make sure we can prioritize this. Maction, you know. We're not going to put out things that we're not confident in. And we're not talking 110% confidence level for everything, right? But Maction is just a different beast. The reporting is so weak. I mean, we're talking 21-year-old kids that are journalists at Ohio that are trying to give us data, information and injuries and stuff. And it's just not happening. So, you know, if we do see some consistency in the Maction for Tuesdays, Wednesdays, you know, I could see potentially releasing some items, some props on Tuesdays or Wednesdays. But I would say typically look for something Thursday afternoon, evening, and then of course Friday evening. And one of the more unique things with college football is throughout the day on Saturday, teams and players from those teams we've already what we call synced or sent to concierge and premium members. Those will pop up. That's why we have the CFB Alpha chat and Discord. We had a lot of success on that yesterday with some random props that popped up. But short answer, Thursday evening, Friday evening is essentially what you're going to be getting. And we're just going to tackle as many games as we can and release the ones that we're the most confident in, obviously.
Yeah, and as you can see, we've got plenty of projections already here. Just looking in the rushing yard simulator here. Andrew Rivers, I see your question in there. I'll answer it in a second. But when you fire up the simulator here, you can immediately start seeing where you've got your edges, what's looking good. And you do see that they're pretty large numbers here. Like this is on the low side for us, but you see an 11% up here. And the way I like to describe it, it's the difference between a scalpel, like you have on the Unabated line, where it's this precision tool where you're going, okay, I have a 2.3% edge. I'm going to bet that. Props, it's more like you're using a hatchet. You're looking for a little bit larger of numbers here. I don't know, just off the top of your head here, what do you think of Woody Marks tonight? I'm putting you on the spot because we're not really here to talk about specific props for tonight. I'm giving you just one, though.
I like Woody Marks. I think what's unique about this backfield for USC is that it's in recent years they've used multiple guys. So, you know, we're hesitant to put a heavy volume on a guy like Woody Marks. But the thing is, they don't have anybody behind him. Quentin Joyner was, I think, a 4-star, and now he's a true sophomore or a redshirt freshman. But they didn't give him any run last year, and they had injuries. They had the bowl game to utilize him when what's his name, Marshawn Lloyd was out of the game, didn't play in it, and they didn't give him much love. So we're not seeing a huge amount of volume for the backups. That's why we see an over here, which we like. So yeah, I like it personally. LSU's defense, USC's defense, they're both pretty awful. Hence why Jaden Daniels could put up such insane numbers last year. I mean, obviously he's incredible, but they were always in shootouts. So I like it here. And I'll give you a freebie too. Roydell Williams under feels fine to me. I mean, they used 5 running backs last week, and we're talking like within the first 2 series, they used 5 running backs. So we're not going to see the volume. So reverse of Woody Marks, we're not going to see the volume with Roydell Williams that a typical starting running back, essentially, especially at Florida State, would see.
All right. Well, definitely have to watch out for that. I mean, you got Caesars as a nice under 69.5 at -111 right now on those rushing yards for Roydell Williams. And man, could anything be more disappointing for Florida State than the start to the season this year, except perhaps the ending of last season?
That was a tough one. We'll see if they bounce back. I think they didn't play well, and I don't think they coached well. That offensive strategy was it's like they didn't realize anybody could throw a 15-yard pass. So they just threw it sideline to sideline, short stuff, and Georgia Tech was all over it.
DJ Uiagalelei with the downfall of his career, the invention of the forward pass. Now, let's look at some questions here. Andrew Rivers says, can Unabated price some of these odds boosts that books use? For example, I know one book that has both QBs tonight to throw for over 249.5 passing yards. Now, Yeah, the short answer is yes. The long answer is you need to do a little math on your own, especially if you're talking about both, like both quarterbacks, something like that. But hey, we're here for a minute. Let's use the prop simulator feature because this is exactly how I do this. So, could I actually trouble you to give me the projection for one of the quarterbacks tonight?
Yeah, let's do Garrett Nussmeier. I think he is. This is a guy that's much different than Jaden Daniels in that he doesn't run, but I could see him throwing for 4,000 yards, and I actually have some money on him going first overall in the NFL draft. So, what do you need? Yards or completions?
I need both.
So 294.5 is his yards, so the bottom one, and then completions we got 21.8.
So the beauty of this simulator here, because I see Eric also asking a similar question, saying DK has CFB props. However, the book does not use over under, only X plus. How can we attack them even with poor odds? Unfortunately, DK has mostly a monopoly where I'm from. This is going to help you both with the issues that you're having here, because basically this is a generic simulator for us. So rather than having the specific quarterback and the specific breakdown with their lines, you can enter anyone's projection right up here, and it's going to show you here, this is what the fair price should be on their odds for any sort of given line. So, for example, here to answer Andrew's question, what you can do is you can say, let's see, you're looking for both quarterbacks to throw over 249.5 tonight. So depending on which game you had, you could upload both quarterbacks projections here. And then you're looking for 249.5, which in this case for this guy is minus 212. And then if you just do the math yourself, combine with those odds, should be like, there is definitely a little more correlation, but that should get you at least in the rough neighborhood of where you should be. And I'm sure Jack will be double checking me in the chat there if I need to clarify any point on that. But this is also a great tool for figuring out, like, for example, it does have his odds for a 300 plus yard passing game right here, because I know that is what some of these have. Eric, some of these books are doing 300 plus and more, but you can also use this to just simply price out, hey, what should this guy's price be to throw over or under any sort of given number? And you can even look at the distribution here. It's such a useful tool and such a useful, helpful way to get you rolling and ready when it comes to these player props, and when it comes to what you want to deal with some of the alt markets there. I love using it for that, because when we're doing our prop shows, like the one, Chris, that we are going to be doing each Friday here. We started up this Friday, and we will be going each Friday at 11 a.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. Eastern. You can check us out doing college football props. And then right after that, I'm on with Derek Carty at noon Pacific, 3 Eastern, doing NFL props as well. We're running people through the simulator using our projections, the blitz projections for the NFL. So again, make sure you hit that subscribe button and make sure you get notified whenever we go live, because Fridays are going to be a great prop content day for everyone. And yes, multiply the implied probability of each over 249.5 from the simulator. Jack confirming for me there that I was right on that one. Michael says, hey, gents, I just signed up to Unabated Premium last week ahead of the upcoming college football season. Thank you so much. I tried to bet unabated lines for college football in main markets. Are the unabated lines positive EV, and is it a good strat that I only take odds that the same or better than the unabated line? I mean, falling short of like total gambling advice here, I would say yes, that is a good strategy. Like, we're working here to always have plus EV bets, and when you have a bet that's better than the unabated line, you have a positive edge on that bet. Those are the bets that we are in fact looking for here. You can do some other things with it. I know plenty of other people who are doing other things with the tools as well, but at its core, that is definitely one of the great ways to get started and get started using the tools here. Now, Chris, going back to the college football props here, what would you say when it comes to the actual sausage that we're making here with these props? What would you say is the biggest difference between college and NFL when it comes to building these prop markets out?
College football is just so volatile. You get guys like Ted McMillan that went for 300 plus yards last night. You get Jeremy Bernard, who we had projected in the 80s, and he didn't have a catch until garbage time in the third quarter. It's just it is a different beast with some of these matchups and blowouts, and teams can get ahead big time. So big performances are certainly possible. But yeah, the volatility and then just like the heavy usage is insane. Some of these guys seeing 35, 38% of targets, which you could never dream of in the NFL. Ollie Gordon consistently getting like 70% of rushing usage. That's never going to happen in the NFL. So just the huge numbers and the huge usage and the huge volatility that you can see within it. But sometimes the correlation can really hit, and it makes for an interesting night when that does happen.
It really does. And you're right. You can hit some of these correlations. I mean, we're talking about some of these markets that you can attack in college football. I know we talked about it on our show Friday, but one of the biggest things is attacking some of these guys like we did. We had some great success with tight end props on Friday, where we were talking about guys who are maybe a little further down the depth chart and simply aren't going to be getting the usage and volume. But again, it's college football. You have these massive rosters. The fourth, fifth, sixth receiver, all of a sudden you can be finding some value plays on some of those unders, right?
Yeah, this was a big thing in CFB Alpha chat on Discord that we had yesterday and the day before. We talked about Liam Clifford, Penn State receiver, Elijah Badger, Florida receiver. Some of these guys get priced out or put out numbers that like they're starting or like top 2-3 receivers on a team, and they're clear backups. The tight ends are a huge one. I don't know what the infatuation is with these books putting out tight end numbers, but they do it all the time, and half of them never make any sense. The Wisconsin third tight end who saw like 2 or 3 snaps had a number of like 18.5 yards for some reason. UNLV's tight end had a number that's similar to some of the different receivers on his team. Now, albeit it was like 22.5, 24.5, something like that. But that's still a big number for a position that largely gets 6 to 10% of targets. That's not a commonly used position. That's a big difference between college football and NFL. College football just doesn't really use the tight end unless you're kind of like a fake tight end, like Rondé Gadsden. So that's a huge one. You get a lot of mispriced or completely wrong bets that are, props that are thrown out there. And something like the Alpha Chat's a good way for us to be able to kind of explain why you might see such a large edge, because some of them are genuinely true, but it's kind of hard to like hammer a 40% edge without a little context, which we saw recently yesterday.
Yeah, it is. We're going to get more context as the season goes along. Do you think that's going to take away from some of these edges, or do you think that, I mean, it's tough to prognosticate?
I would suspect, based on the last couple of years of specifically looking at props and working and betting on them, we're going to consistently get it. We're going to consistently see some of these lines. Some sites are better than others, or some books are better than others. But timing wise, you definitely will get some of these completely mispriced ones throughout the rest of the season. There's just so much news that goes on and so many injuries that go on that it's easy. And I don't blame a book. Why would a book catch up on UNLV tight ends? Like, why would they understand the depth chart for UNLV, right? And that's something that we help provide over at Unabated as well, is some of the quickest, if not the quickest, news in college football, which is extremely impactful.
It really is. And you talk about that news. That's a great point to bring up before we head out of here. Rufus should be joining us in a few minutes. But when it comes to college football news, we've got you covered for that too, don't we?
Yeah. So we've built essentially a list of reporters and news avenues and different people that we can trust and follow. And when that news is breaking, we're able to catch it nearly immediately. Obviously, you have to hit the refresh button, and Twitter is a little bit wonky at times, but put it in the system, tweet it out in some of the quickest. And then our team, Ben, Glenn, and myself work with the news team hand in hand to assist each other, right? Hey, this guy is out. Hey, this guy is doubtful. And then that way we can quickly update projections as well as make sure we're both on top of it as fast as we can. So only a couple conferences require injury announcements, and most of them don't. So you see a lot of different players that kind of sneak by, hey, this quarterback, Michigan, great situation. Michigan's quarterback. The reason why we knew who the starter was because the Davis Warren was taking snaps from the starting center, but we didn't see that really until later on in warmups, able to break it. If there were any Alex Orji lines out there who was the backup, essentially, you were able to hit the under on that. And the timeliness is impactful in college football.
It really is. And as you can see here, as I pulled it up while you were talking, we've got all of the college football news, all the feeds, all the info that you need to know coming right to you right on our screen here. You just click the little news icon over there. It's going to bring it up. And like you mentioned, this is a sport that it can be really tough aggregating all of that news, aggregating all of that information, and we make it easy. We've got you covered on it. We've got you covered for the entire college football season and beyond here. And it's a great way to gain another edge here on a sport that you can sometimes need to gain an edge on informationally, since there's just so much going on. And like you said, it's impossible for the books to be covering every single thing, especially when it comes to a sport as big as college football, right?
Yeah, 134 teams and counting, and there's just no way to cover them all. The thing that I've learned the most in college football in the last 7-8 years is that if you it's effort matters, grinding it out and kind of having the contextual background of situations and knowing who to ask, knowing who to trust, that type of stuff with information, you can see an impact to it. Now, you don't get that in other sports, right? There's so many things that are priced out so fair and equal that you're still battling other factors, but not in college football. You can gain a leg up just by kind of grinding it out or having the right source of information to help you out.
Exactly. It can be like it's one of those sports where you can get that informational edge, and we're here to help you do that as well. Now, in just a few minutes here, Rufus should be joining us. Just waiting on him for a second here. But Dave Clark in the chat says that's cool. I'm not sure I've ever used the news feature. I'll check it out now. So there we go. At least one person has found a new edge already on the day here. Chris, you're the guy that I want to help me out with this, because we want to grow this YouTube channel a little bit more. We've got the YouTube main channel, of course, all of Jack's awesome videos, youtube.com/unabated. Go check it out. Jack does so much to work on all of these bite-sized videos that are there to help you with your gambling education. But over here on the live tab, this is where we're doing all of our podcasts, our live content, streams like this, prop shows, again, the podcast and everything that goes with that. We want to grow this more. I'm trying to think, what should I do? We started off with 755 subscribers here this morning. I need something that we can do here for every single time we get a new subscriber, or at the end or something. Like, am I going one push-up for every new subscriber we get, and we're going to put out a video, and hopefully I'm doing several hundred push-ups here, and I'm going to be absolutely jacked by the end of this? What should we be doing?
Well, the whole mascot one-handed push-up thing is like really popular, or two-handed. Tom, you can work into the one hand.
Let's not push it too far.
Cowbell is huge. Mississippi State, Stark Vegas. If you're into cowbell would be a great celebration. Those are the two big ones that come to mind. I think the push-ups are a great idea, and I think you could work into the one-handed push-ups. I think you could get there.
I think we could do it. I will tell you a little bit of a yarn here from back in the day, in my esports commentary days. I was one time at an event where it was sponsored by it was a joint thing with, I believe, the Air Force and the Navy. And we had a push-up contest that I ended up being the loser of, and having to do a whole bunch of push-ups in front of a bunch of military personnel. And let me tell you, it was not pretty.
Yeah, I could name a million things I'd prefer to do than push-ups in front of people that can do like hundreds at a time. That's a little bit embarrassing, I'm sure.
I will say, having a drill sergeant there humbles you real quick, but also it pushes you. It pushes you to keep working there.
Yeah.
All right. I am coordinating right now with Rufus to get him in the room so that he can come on. But in the meantime, we are going to patter for a couple more minutes here. If you have any more questions for Chris before he heads out here, be sure to throw them in the chat now. And again, if you are here with us and you like, what's not to like here with all of the awesome stuff that we have going on today? It's going to be fantastic. But if you want more Chris K, the best place to do that is both in our Discord, and Fridays at 11 a.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. Eastern. We will be on our prop show, doing the entire prop thing. We're going to be going through the slate, looking at some projections, and it's really going to be, for us, we're going to be focusing in on some of the ones that are maybe a little bit off the beaten path, the stuff that you're not necessarily going to see on the main projection slate, aren't we, Chris?
Yeah, it's a great point. I was just going to bring that up. On Friday afternoons, we'll be doing that show, and we're going to be focusing on two things. If the Friday night games are little bit questionable. There's not a lot of confidence in them. We'll talk those Friday night games if they're not included in the release. What we'll also do is talk Saturday games where there's context that's required. Typically that's injury. So think of like, we didn't release Georgia as much as we wanted to, but we didn't because Travis Etienne was suspected to be injured, weren't 100% on that. And we're not going to release it if we're not. So we held back. Alabama was another one. That's why we talked about it. Talk about the situation. Hey, if this quarterback wins the job, which specifically was UNLV. So some of these different teams that have question marks, we'll talk through the injuries. Hey, if this happens, this is where that lean might be versus the other side of things. And then obviously take questions, right? We talked through some different props and different numbers and names we liked. And then we had some different people in the chat say, hey, do we like it at this number? Alt line, as much as it killed me, we talked about already, Jeremy Bernard, the alt line didn't hit. But we saw some really interesting numbers and some good EV there. It just didn't play out the way we wanted it to, obviously. But we'll talk through some context, most importantly. In Discord, where we put those projection notes, there's no way to give the full context of that. No one's reading 3 or 4 paragraphs, and so we don't blame you. But a content like a video on Friday afternoon is the perfect avenue to get that information for you.
It really is. And exactly, that's what we that's what we want to do. We want to give you another spot where you can come get a little more of an edge. We can talk through some props and stuff. And we're doing it the same way that Derek Carty and I love to do the NFL prop show. This isn't come get your picks. This is, hey, this is how you want to approach props. This is how we are here to approach props. It's more data oriented. It's not us going, oh, I got a hunch on this guy, or I like him because of this reasons, and we're building a narrative. We're looking at numbers. We're breaking down the numbers. We're finding the prices that you want to be betting at. And, the biggest thing for me from last year doing the NFL show was on the last day of the season, someone coming in and saying, hey, watching this show made me think about props differently. And that's the success. Like, that's what we're here to do. We're here to help you think differently and think better about how you want to approach it when it comes to this gambling business here.
Yeah, we kind of did it this past Friday specifically, right? We talked TCU's passing game and how I think if anybody looked at the projections and the edges and said, okay, why do you guys love a quarterback over like 284 passing yards, but like the under on every one of his receivers? I think everybody would think you're crazy, right? And that's totally fair. But in a conversation where we can provide the context of how they use the receivers and how the targets may be distributed, that's the perfect avenue to do it. And you got to think about it from that angle. Or, I think we also talked about it too, and this was a great one for like Notre Dame, albeit all of them hit, or like USC's receivers tonight. We pretty much like the under on every receiver for USC. We like the under on every receiver for Notre Dame. Now, Notre Dame is probably like 8 of 9 of the different props hit between receptions and yards. But that's not going to happen every time. So the context of, hey, when you're looking at USC receivers tonight, don't go on Underdog or Prizepicks and put all 3 of them in one and then add a different player, right?
Yeah.
Kind of spread them out, pinpoint 1 or 2 that you really like, that you believe in based on maybe some own interest and investigation yourself, and target it that way. Because we're looking at some of these different things and know that, hey, if you have 4 unders on receivers, there's probably one of them is going to go over, but we're going to look at the law of averages and hit that number more often than not on the under.
Exactly. All right, Chris, it has been an absolute pleasure having you here today. Thank you so much. Again, you want to see more Chris, you can see him on our Friday show, 11 a.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. Eastern. And of course, check out the Unabated Discord as well. It's free to sign up in the link in the description of this video here. But for now, my friend, thank you so much for your service on this Sunday, and we will see you on Friday. It's been a pleasure, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Enjoy the games tonight, and we'll be seeing you this week in the Discord.
Absolutely. All right. Chris is headed out, but coming on in, it is Rufus Peabody, the dog's name himself. Rufus, looking sharp, my friend. Loving the shirt there.
Thanks. I get to wear this a few days a year. Feels like on American holidays. It's fitting. And
it is.
This is not American. It's not American holiday today, but I was at and still am technically at a friend's birthday barbecue. So what is more American than this shirt for a barbecue? The day before Labor Day.
You know me. I am always here for throwing out the flashy shirts for any occasion that I can.
I do know you. Yeah. I've never seen a muted shirt from you, Tom.
I mean,
I feel like it's. I'm always excited for what I'm going to get whenever I see you.
My aesthetic is 1970s Miami Coke dealer, and
That's pretty accurate.
I fully own it. You see me, you're like, that guy's got terrible drugs, but they're here. I don't actually, but hey, that's the look. That's the look and vibe. But we are here today to talk about the college football simulator, Rufus. It's a brand new tool from us here at Unabated. You had a huge part in designing and building it, and I don't want to take up a ton of your time here because I know you got to get back to the barbecue and we're trying to get through everybody pretty quickly, but walk us through a little bit when it comes to using this tool. First off, how would you approach using this tool? If you were adding this to your tool bag right now, what is the way that you would be using it?
Well, first off, I want to give like all credit where credit is due. This was not me. Like this was Jake Drockelman, our head of data science, and our engineering team. They did the heavy lifting building it. Kate and I had built something similar years ago, and this was sort of adapted from that. But this was a huge task, and those guys, like, I mean, I can't say enough about the job they did. So how, in terms of how I would use it, I think it depends on who I am. If I'm a college football originator, if I'm someone that has my own power ratings, I think it's that's probably the best use case because you can plug those in, run simulations, and get accurate future results basically. And I think what's really cool is that then you can open the future screen up and sort of see where the edges are based on your simulation results. And so I think that's this is we have a lot of tools for top-down bettors. This is a tool kind of that really is great for a bottom-up bettor. So as someone who's a bottom-up bettor myself, an originator, I have my power ratings like the Mattek Peabody ratings, but I also know that Mattek Peabody isn't like the gospel. And I know that if I'm betting based on Mattek Peabody ratings, like historically, I need to regress like 70% back, at least at the close, 70% back to the market price. And so what I try to do is I try to find, I try to essentially build a kind of aggregate rating that has my numbers and kind of regresses strongly to the market. Now, this is a lot easier for the NFL where we have market-based ratings. And we have market-based ratings because we have look-ahead lines for all teams. We don't have that for college football. There's no look ahead for like Akron playing Eastern Michigan in week 5. Or I don't even know when they're playing, but they're probably playing at some point on action. So we don't have market-based ratings there. And so what I do is I find some other publicly available rating systems out there, and I kind of like combine Mattek Peabody with some of these other ones. I then upload that and run my simulations with that. Now you could do it with just Mattek Peabody if you want, but I would use a much higher threshold for an edge. So I guess the point is, if I was a top-down bettor and I don't want to take a stance, I want to come up with a rating. I want my ratings to be the most like market-based I can. And so in essence, what I want to do, and a good way to test that, Tom, is to basically look and see based on the ratings you're using, would you have any edges on this week's games? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you do that and you say, oh, wow, there's this game that's, it's lined at -14, but my ratings, my market-based ratings that I'm using here, or the ratings I'm using for the simulator would show this at -20. That's a huge difference. You're probably going to be showing like big edges on the team that you had as -20, or maybe edges against the team that you had as +20 when the market had in 14. So, I mean, I think, and maybe that's just sort of a tip, like when trying to construct like a market-based ratings, like to know if the edge you're seeing is because of the simulator being able to find interesting quirks of schedule or tiebreakers or whatever, or if it's just because your rating system just says this team is better than they are or than the market does.
And so when it comes to using some of those ratings for what we have in the simulator for the more top-down bettor here, would you say that you're using it more in terms of like the futures market when you're trying to read the tea leaves that come out of the simulator, if you are someone who is trying to approach it from the top-down betting side?
Yeah. So, I mean, before the season, yes, there was regular season wins, and I showed, with Mattek Peabody and a few other rating systems together, I showed some pretty big edges on some. I think I probably bet a good 35 or 40 regular season win totals for teams. Now that the season's begun, you're not going to see that as much. I think team to win a conference title. And then the big one, I think, this year, just because we have the expansion of the college football playoff is to 12 teams, is will a team make the playoff? And I think that's one area we have, I think we have something that frankly is, I don't know, maybe other people have done this, but we have a college football playoff selection committee simulator thing. I need a better name for it, clearly.
It's predicting the committee.
Like we basically run a simulation of the season week by week. We update the ratings based on the previous week's simulated games. A team's rating moves kind of like a random walk. And at the end of the season, we have simulated results. We know that this team went 9-3 and finished third in the SEC, or whatever. And then we basically have to figure out where the committee is going to rank them. And so we do that based on historical committee rating tendencies. And so we build a model to do that. And there's a lot of uncertainty there because the uncertainty is based on the uncertainty and based in the errors, I guess, that the model has had in predicting committee behavior in the past. And there are going to be errors. No model can be perfect at this because these are human beings making a judgment call and kind of saying it's based on such and such a thing, but then they contradict themselves very often. And so we do that. And so for each simulated season, we have simulated committee ratings. And that's, I think this is something that Cade and I built for the first time back in 2017 or 2016 in the early days of the playoff. And we have a lot more data now. So our committee ratings are going to be better. But I think it's definitely a potential source of alpha there. And I think in terms of understanding how much uncertainty there is. And so intuitively, it might not be easy to price out, what are the chances that Liberty makes the playoff conditional on them going undefeated and winning their conference, right? But we can do this based off of the committee's preferences before. Obviously the top group of 5 schools is going to get in, but would they get in over like a 1-loss Memphis team? The answer is probably, I believe. Yeah. But we can see that, and that's all sort of simulated in. And I think at some point it would be kind of cool. And this is obviously right now, this is just the first version we've released. I think we're going to release, I would love to see more features later, but something where someone could kind of explore the results a little bit more. And because, it's something I like doing. Yeah. Maybe other people don't as much, but being like contingent on Liberty going undefeated, what are their chances of making the playoff? Stuff like that.
I think it's very interesting how you can actually sit down and quantify, you can quantify the SEC bias in the committee, right? That's what you're talking about doing when you're talking about modeling out the committee prediction.
I'd say it's more a Power 5 bias. If you're a Power 5 school, or I guess not Power 4, there is historically been a bump you got, or I should say the equivalent way of saying it is there's a downgrade if you're a group of 5 school. Controlling for team power, team strength, number of losses, strength of schedule, etc.
And I was mostly just bringing out the SEC, but would you say that it is now going to be more of a Power 2 bias? As we start getting closer to this SEC Big Ten megapoly that we've got going on?
It feels that way, doesn't it? I think it'll be interesting to see what happens this year. But I do think historically the committee does care about number of losses, and at least towards the very top, I think some of the better teams have kind of gotten shafted because they played tougher schedules. A 2-loss, like Alabama with 2 losses versus like a 1-loss, back in the day, like Oregon or Pac-12 team. The 1-loss team. Yeah, Alabama clearly being. I mean, this isn't a real life example, but the 2-loss SEC team that's clearly the better team generally gets rated behind the 1-loss Pac-12 team that's the worst team.
Yeah, it's
that there is this sort of it's like a hierarchy within number of losses, but that changes a bit as you go down in the committee ratings. And what'll be interesting for me to see is how how much did the committee actually really give a shit about like the number 10, 11, 12 teams versus like it's all the ratings really mattered for were the top 4. And then having the other stuff was almost there to like is window dressing it to sort of say, oh, hey, this is like how we do things, incentivize teams to play tougher schedules, what have you. And so it'll be interesting to see now that the top 12 matter, if the way they rate out those sort of 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 teams shows any differences from how they did in the past.
Yeah, do you think we could be getting basically more at-large? I mean, obviously they're all at-large bids at that point because they're not the guaranteed ones. But do you think that we're going to start seeing more deference to, oh, well, this team has 2 losses, but look who it is that they played. They're going to make it in over more of a 1-loss team that maybe didn't play as much?
I mean, you're definitely like as you said, the power 2. Yeah, you'll definitely see that because these teams are going to be playing other top teams and they're beating up on each other to some extent, and so that's definitely going to be the case. And a 2-loss SEC team versus a 1-loss Group of 5 team, like that Group of 5 team, unless they win their conference, isn't sniffing anything.
Yeah,
and now, even if they win, yeah.
Yeah. Now, Nitish Nima is in the chat here. He's got a few questions. First off, what's up, Nitish? Great to see you as always. He's got a couple questions for you. One of them, why is Massey Peabody not as great by itself? What is the best way to blend projections for the simulator? Now, obviously, you could get down to a really granular level here, but maybe just more of the overview of why it is that you're blending in other projection sources with the Massey Peabody.
So, I mean, I think that's the case with any rating system you develop. But Massey Peabody is even at I guess its height when I mean now there's a lot of other systems out there, and I guess there were back then too. But I think back in the day, we 10 years ago when we just sort of started that, there were fewer data driven like rating systems out there, and there was a little more alpha. But at the same time, there is, no matter how good your rating system is, it's not perfect, and the market adds something there. And so, hold on, sorry. So I'm being told to move a little bit. Yeah, no matter how good your rating system is, it's not perfect, and there's wisdom in the market. Like there's in especially a system like Massey Peabody, which is a team-based rating system. It's not going to account for injuries. It's quarterback goes down, like it's tougher to account for that. And so it's sort of like a baseline, and you can make adjustments off of it. But also, I should say that we haven't done a lot with the rating system in the past, like 4 or 5 years, in terms of major upgrades to it. And so, and as more data has become available, I think that there are, I wouldn't expect it to have as much alpha as it did in the past.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at, it's the difference between how many years ago when you could basically take just the system and start comparing spreads to it and say, oh, okay, I've got edges here. Can't do that anymore.
I mean, I still do bet on it myself, early week stuff, but I'm not going to go blindly bet something based on Massey Peabody on game day. I'll say that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. His other question there for you: since conference winners are guaranteed a playoff spot, when do you think conference winner becomes a better bet than to make the playoff? And granted, there could be a ton of gray area with this.
No, I mean, I think it all depends on circumstance. I mean, their conference winner, the markets, we have conference tiebreakers and stuff like that matter. But I guess the question is there going to be more alpha in the playoff stuff just from the fact that the market might not forecast it as well as the simulator does? I think that's why there'd be more alpha maybe on the playoff. Mm-hmm. If we're doing our job right, at least.
I feel like some of the question there has to come down to realistic path. Like for example, a team like Syracuse, throwing my Homer example in here, you're probably better off taking them to win the conference than to make the playoff, because if they don't win the conference, there are some teams where if they don't win the conference, the committee is probably going to find another team to put in. I feel like some of the SEC and Big Ten teams, you're going to have a better advantage on some of these, maybe make the playoff instead of win conference.
See, I I don't know about that, Tom. Honestly, I think that I was surprised at how often we had a few ACC teams in there, more than you would think. So there are worlds where, the top half of the ACC ends up being really strong, or at least looking strong, and they have good resumes, and it's hard to leave them out. I mean, and politics are a consideration. You have to remember, it doesn't look great if you have 7 like SEC teams getting in and one ACC team, even though there's another ACC team with like 2 losses or 1 loss or something that isn't considered.
But maybe for some of these smaller conferences too, like you got to start
looking for the group of 5,
group of 5.
But at the same time, that should it just depends on how the market's pricing that. So if the market's pricing it like there's no chance unless they win the conference, and maybe you think, and we find it in the simulator shows, well, there is a little bit of a chance, then maybe there's value there. So I think it all depends on what the prices are.
I believe Ben Carey over here from the Capwise account. Although it's not you, if it is you, Ben, hey, how's it going? If it's not you, Ben, still, hey, how's it going? But having the tool to show percentage to make the playoff if a team has 1 loss or 2 losses would be cool. Do you think that's coming?
We could, Kate and I used to do that. Actually, we had something like that. We did a article for the Washington Post for I think 2 or 3 seasons every week, where we kind of got insights from our simulator on the playoff, and so we actually did have a chart that said probability of making the playoff if 1 loss, or if 2 losses. And I mean, this is back when it was a 14 playoff, but I think I gotta, I don't want to promise anything. I gotta talk to engineering about that. But clearly we have the data in the simulations to be able to spit that out. It's just about building like an interface for it. Or, I mean, I think at the very least we could maybe even have like a downloadable file of your sim results that you could play with yourself. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, and someone did ask. Someone did ask in the chat about getting a downloadable CSV file from the simulation results that they can pump into, and we are working on that.
I think that would be cool. And that doesn't seem like we wouldn't have to build an interface for it. We just let people give it to people and they can play with it themselves. I mean, personally, if I was using a simulator like this, that's what I would want. I'd be like, okay, I want to see my results to be able to like price out all the various things.
Yeah, exactly. And the good news is we do give you a little bit of that here on the Unabated simulator page. Not quite to the same granular detail you could do manipulating the data yourself if you have a CSV file, but we do show you, like what, hey, based on the simulation that you've created here for us, these are your prices, and then it's also mapping out these are the best prices in the market available for you to take advantage of, and you can
and regular season win stuff. You can see exact number of wins for different number of wins, all that stuff in alternate lines. But you're right. Like you wouldn't be able to say how often does this team finish 3rd in their conference. Like we don't have that. That's not in our interface right now.
But hey, could be one day.
Or like what's the exacta with like, Florida with Clemson beating Syracuse in the ACC title game, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that stuff you can price out on your own there. I mean, one thing,
and there's weird things like that offered. So, but those are things where like I don't foresee us building a tool to be able to based on or an interface for that. But like, if you download if we can give you the sim files results yourself, you could easily query that.
Exactly. And hey, we're all about giving you the easiest options, the easiest examples here. I mean, one thing that's jumping off the page to me, obviously, I built, this was the most quick and dirty load in the Massey Peabody ratings. They don't account for week 1 at this point, but Oklahoma State here at plus 374. Did they lose this week or?
I don't know. I didn't watch any college football, Tom. I hate to say it.
Yeah, I mean, I watched the Syracuse game, and that was about it for me. I was busy getting ready, quite frankly, for this stream and some other stuff that we've got going on. But Rufus, before we get you out of here, we do have a couple more minutes before our next guest, Derek Carty, is going to be coming in to talk some NFL props with us. So excited for that. So excited for the great shows that we have coming up this season. But real quick, maybe any sneak previews to maybe some other sports that aren't football related? Anything you want to real quick just say you're excited about coming to Unabated pretty soon?
Is this something I'm supposed to know, Tom?
No, maybe not. But of course, originally we were going to have Justin Fan on here to talk to us as well, but he had some stuff come up, couldn't make it to the stream. We will be doing a podcast, giving you the real intro to Justin. But we have some exciting stuff coming down the pipe this fall.
We do. Sorry, I thought you were like referencing like other simulator type stuff. Sorry,
No,
I was
good.
just on a different wavelength than you there.
All good. I was purposely being a little bit vague with it, but yeah, are you excited for some of the basketball stuff that we've got coming here?
For sure. I can't wait for college basketball season.
Yeah. Oh, I bet you can't wait for college basketball. I mean, that's a big time of year for you, but we've still got all of football to go here. Sure. And we're gonna have some exciting NBA stuff coming up too.
We are. I think our NBA product is going to be absolutely fantastic. We've got a great team, and we've really stepped up what we're doing there.
That's right. It's going to be a lot of fun here. One last question here from Nitish is getting his questions in, and hey, everybody should be doing this. Load them in. Come in the chat. Talk with us. I'm seeing a comment on Twitter as well. Ben Carey. Okay, so I'll go to Tish, then Ben, then Rufus. We'll let you get back to the party here because we'll be bringing on Derek in just a minute. Nitish says, how does Massey Peabody factor in strength of schedule?
It does. Like the rating system accounts for, I mean, I think any good rating system accounts for strength of opponent, but we're grading out a team relative to the opponent they're playing, like on a given week. So, you know,
yep.
You're being graded on that curve. I guess that's the simplest way of putting it. Like if you want, I don't want to get into all the nerdy details of how we're doing that, but there's sort of an iterative, I guess a recursive process for that.
Yeah. That makes sense to me. And Nitish, I'm sure if you drop that question in the Discord, we can get into a more nerdy, minute answer for you. But for now, Rufus, thank you so much for being here with me today. Again, if anyone wants to check out that CFB season simulator, it's live now as Rufus takes off on us there. But thank you so much to him. And hey, it is time to switch over to the NFL. We've talked some college ball here so far, but let's face it, everybody's a little bit excited for the National Football League to be back this week. And we are officially coming up on week 1 here. And that means it is going to be time for more player props once again. And so now want to bring on one of my absolute favorite people that I'm going to be talking props with all season long at noon Pacific time, 3 p.m. Eastern time on the NFL slate. We're going to be running through the Blitz, his projections from EV Analytics with the Unabated Simulator here. Derek Carty. Derek, it is great to see you again. Thank you so much for joining us today. How are you doing, my friend? Are we ready to finally be beyond baseball here?
I mean, I love baseball. I will never get too much baseball, but it's always really nice when football comes back too, especially for September. We get both of them. This is going to be a great football season. I'm excited.
Yeah, it is going to be so much fun. And of course, we're going to talk today. We're going to show people kind of how the Blitz, how EV Analytics works in tandem with Unabated, how you can use both and really be nailing your prop projections for the season. But before we get started with it, is there anything that's coming up that's maybe a little bit different this year? I'm sure that I'm sure the answer is going to be no, not really, just like making your tinkering and adjustments. But is there anything that you really have your eye on when it comes to this season in the projection world?
Nothing in particular that I have my eye on. I mean, I guess you have to have your eye on the rule changes, the kickoff thing, what that does, the field position, the tackle, the hip drop tackle thing, whether that's going to spike offense, like that kind of thing. We're definitely going to keep an eye on from a macro level for the first couple weeks. In terms of the projection process itself, a lot of it is going to be pretty similar to last year. I'm constantly tweaking and upgrading the projections. So there's always going to be some new stuff folded in. There's some kind of nitty gritty under the hood type stuff that's not really worth getting into. But I am in the process of working in some like hand in the dirt type stuff, like granular, do quarterbacks, how is quarterback scrambling affected versus a zone defense versus a man defense, or like that type of like stuff. So that's going to start getting worked in over the course of the year. But really, I mean, we've done so well the last few years that it could stay the same and we'd probably be just fine.
Yeah, last year was certainly a great season. We had a little bit of a slow start, but by the end of it, we were absolutely humming along there in the NFL prop game. It was great. Now, you mentioned the hip drop tackle. I feel like this is one of those things, that and the kickoff rule. I feel like these are two things that we can kind of notice from the preseason. Very anecdotal here. I don't feel like I heard a single thing about a hip drop tackle flag.
I don't think I did either. Yeah. So I think that probably gives us a little indication of what to expect, which is that maybe not going to be a big deal, but you never know.
I certainly hope not, but the instant they announced this rule, I was just like, you already see this ending with Travis Kelce falling 2 yards short of a first down on a critical fourth down in the Super Bowl. Oh, Chiefs are going to lose, but wait, penalty, hip drop tackle, fresh set of downs. They go on to like, this is the end result of this. I guarantee it. But I am hopeful that they will say, okay, maybe we're not really calling this one with too much seriousness, because there is an over litigation to the game at this point, in my opinion.
Yeah, there definitely can be. And so I kind of hope that's not where this one is headed.
Mm-hmm.
If for no other reason, then it becomes a little bit trickier to kind of quantify all that and adjust projections. But then again, if that happens, then we probably wind up with a little bit of an edge. So I guess I'm good either way.
Remember the year you could review pass interference and they were just like, this was so much of a nightmare, we're getting rid of it. It's just the over litigation of the game is such a problem. But when it comes to the kickoff rule, I feel like that's something. Are you modeling more out for field position, saying there's going to be more touchbacks or more returns here? Because the vibe I'm picking up from teams is we're just going to kick the ball out of the end zone and not deal with this.
Yeah, it certainly seems like that could be the thing. It's tough to know right now. As of now, I've made very, very limited adjustments for these rules. I kind of want to see a week or two of really what they look like in real game action before I, overcommit or overreact more than anything else.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of the stance I'm taking with it to start the year.
Yeah. Now it's not like last year with college football where we had the clock rules changing, and that was a significant, drastic change that was having major impact early on, right?
I don't follow much college football. I'm sorry. I didn't even know they changed the rule.
It's the difference that the NFL rule, it's just not the rule changes this year aren't going to be anything that we're freaking out about or trying to take advantage of week one with major edges popping up that we're just
right. Not. No, I don't think we're looking at that. No, certainly not week one.
Yeah. Now, a reminder, everybody can throw their questions in here, especially Derek. I know that you are very active on our Discord, letting people ask you questions all the time about how the sausage is made when it comes to the blitz, the bad X, everything that we have. But if they want to take advantage of those projections from EV Analytics, the NFL Season Simulator is already up and ready for us. We have all these great markets here for you. As I switch to one that is not simmable there, but as you can see here, if you want to be able to work hand in hand with the blitz and unabated, you can head on over here to the prop simulator, go to that projections tab, drop down, and the blitz here, it's super easy. This link will take you straight to the EV Analytics page where you can get your subscription, and then it takes 2 seconds for you to link your account there with your account with us, and then all of these projections will populate in automatically for people. Super easy, no CSV files required, no headaches at all. And Derek, the most common question people ask is usually, when do the projections usually drop and how often are you updating them? So this stream is very much giving people a little bit more of a background for everybody.
Sounds good. Generally speaking, the first round of projections will drop sometime on Tuesday, the week before a game. Mm-hmm. This week, they'll be coming out either later tonight or tomorrow. But yeah, so that's the first run. But football does kind of require a manual component. If Jamar Chase is out on a given week, a computer isn't going to be able to really do a good job of figuring out, okay, well, who's going to be throwing the ball instead of Jamar Chase? So you really kind of need a person to kind of handicap those usage stats. And so those adjustments come. I do those usually Wednesday morning. They're done by Wednesday afternoon. And then from there, the projections are going to be pretty stable outside of, injury question marks, big swings in weather, that kind of stuff. And then as far as injuries and stuff goes, mm-hmm. The simple answer is I try to update them as soon as possible. Sometimes you'll get an update within a few minutes of an injury kind of thing being announced. This guy's out this week. I'll change it. It'll pop up. But you're definitely getting an update pretty much every day at the very, very least, but usually, hopefully, within minutes or an hour.
Yeah, you are incredibly on top of it with these projections. And of course, the first two questions that we have in the chat are, Is it too early to use the blitz projections for week 1? How are projections calculated for week 1? And Andrew Kunkel over here saying, when do the first run of blitz projections come out this week? And how will we know once you've made manual adjustments? Is it noted somewhere?
Yes.
Yes.
So I made adjustments today. I just want to go through and look at the final output just to make sure everything kind of passes the smell test, because it is the first run of the year. I just want to make sure everything's good. So those should be coming out either later tonight or tomorrow. What else? What were the other questions we had?
How are the
how do you know that adjustments are made? So there is a page on EV Analytics, or there will be. I think they still need to add it. It'll either be on the prop sheet or a separate page where it will just tell you whether a team's usage has been adjusted or not. It'll be like a check mark column or something. And if it's checked off, then it's been adjusted. There's also a page that will tell you what stance the blitz is taking on all like the questionable players that week. Like, okay, we don't know if Jamar Chase is going to play this week, whatever it is. And it will tell you, okay, the blitz is projecting Jamar Chase out, or it's projecting him in, which will obviously influence the projections of everyone else on the team. So kind of knowing that is important. You might see an edge that looks really good against the book, but maybe the book is assuming he's playing and I'm assuming he's not. And maybe you want to be a little careful before you wager too heavily into that because of the uncertainty.
Yeah. It is very much how you want to be bouncing around. You want to be figuring out that uncertainty, and there's no more uncertainty than we get in week 1. It feels like. What are the unique challenges that come with projecting out this week? Is it tougher? Do you find projecting, especially usage and things like that, because the preseason isn't really a good indicator?
Preseason, I don't think, is a very good indicator. I mean, we can learn some things from preseason, not as much as I think some people like to believe. I guess the biggest challenges with week 1, I guess there's 2 main ones or 3 main ones. One has to do with changes in context, whether a guy's going to a new team or there's new coaching. And so every offseason, I take the time, I look at, okay, these are the new head coaches, these are new coordinators. And I try to basically project all the different facets of the offense and the defense based on what these guys have done historically in their careers at other teams, what they're saying, what their coach speak, what they're kind of talking about their offense or whatever is going to look like. So before you do anything else, you figure that out. Then you have to go in, you have to figure out, okay, now, the Cardinals have Marvin Harrison Jr. this year. So, we need to figure out, okay, well, where, Trey McBride's probably not going to get quite as many targets. So what's it going to do to everybody else? And that's the main thing, because week 1, a lot of that is educated guesswork. Like, we don't know for sure who's going to get the most targets for the Chargers. People think it's going to probably be McConkey, the rookie. But they love Josh Palmer. It could just as easily be Josh Palmer. Like, we don't know. So
we know it's not Quentin Johnson.
It's not Quentin Johnson. I'll tell you that. So yeah, it's kind of figuring all that out. And I have to give a shout out. One of the absolute best tools available it's called the Coach Speak Index. They're on Twitter. They have a Discord now. They have a podcast. This guy's amazing. He goes through all quotes from what coaches have said historically and how reliable those guys are. So when a coach says, okay, this is how I'm going to use this guy, we can have an idea of, okay, he's probably telling us the truth, or he's probably not, or, we're not sure. And that's just been, I feel so just invaluable this year, being able to look through that. I feel like I have such a better sense going into this year of like, okay, these are the guys that are secure in their roles. These are the guys that the teams don't really like. This is what the teams are going to be doing. So yeah, huge shout out for that. If you're not following that already, you definitely should be. But yeah, a lot of that kind of insight is informing kind of, especially like week 1, how I'm projecting some of this stuff.
A couple questions coming in the chat here. Eric, first off, says, any plans to add NFL news to Unabated like college football? Not immediately on the roadmap here. Probably don't expect it for this season, but I can't speak to the official future forecast, but I will say that I can't imagine that we don't eventually manage to get on that train there. B asks, what is typically the best time to make bets for projections based on the blitz? Should we check in for edges daily up until game day? I mean, I would say right off the bat, the answer is definitely yes to that. But we have our times when we're usually making our bets, don't we, Derek?
Yeah, I mean, for the show that we're going to do this year, we're kind of locked into a specific time, and we work with what's available to us at the time, and we did well with it. But if you're using the full set of projections, which you should be, I'm super biased, but I think you should be. Betting early is generally going to be the right move, especially if it's a situation that doesn't have some kind of uncertainty. You know, is this guy going to play? Is this guy not going to play? So betting early is good. But I would also recommend checking back every day. I certainly do. I mean, for me, I'm doing it many times every day, but at least once every day, I would say is probably smart, just because first, things can change throughout the week. So once we get, news, clarification on these uncertain situations, okay, now the books are going to release props for that, maybe that they didn't release before, or new value is going to emerge that wasn't there before. Also, books just don't release every prop immediately. If you're trying to place a bet on, the Cleveland Browns third string tight end over half a reception, that's not available on Tuesday to bet. You look on Saturday or Sunday, maybe it is, and maybe it's got a lot of value. So those are generally speaking, you're going to see more bets on, you're going to be making more bets on like well-known players early in the week and fewer bets on them later in the week, because those markets are going to move and there's not going to be a lot of value at that point.
Yeah, it is, especially with the more popular players, because let's face it, when it comes to the prop market, the general rule of thumb, of course, is that public money doesn't move lines, but props are a little bit of a different beast where, of course,
in football props, I wouldn't say that markets generally move super efficiently. You can definitely see markets sometimes driven by public money just going the wrong way sometimes. And it doesn't mean anything. It's just, that's the nature of the market, because football is so popular and there's so much square money going into it, I think, at least. But yeah, and if you are betting on star players, you're going to find, especially if you're using the blitz or any good projections, you're going to be betting more unders on the stars than on overs. I've probably bet on Patrick Mahomes 10 or 15 times over the last couple years. And I've maybe betting over on Patrick Mahomes like 3 of those times. Maybe it's usually unders, and I'm way up on him. But that's just kind of the nature of how betting markets work. The sports books know people don't want to bet against Patrick Mahomes. He's the best quarterback like ever. But so they know people are going to bet the over. They can kind of shade those lines a little bit too high because people are just going to bet them anyway, which means you have value doing the opposite.
And let me tell you, it feels so wrong and so dirty when I'm like, I'm betting Mahomes under, I'm betting Kelsey under, I'm betting all these things. I'm like, I'm here. I feel like an idiot sweating out Christian McCaffrey unders right now. But you know what? It works, and it's the way you have to go sometimes with it. I mean, how many times have we talked about it on the NFL shows, the MLB shows, that you're right. There is absolutely the edge to the under on these stars, because to bet the over, you're paying this superstar tax, and oftentimes it can be a little too much, and that's when you want to start looking at those unders there. Nitish says, when is the time when the lines move the largest in the NFL? Is it like MLB where there's huge overnight movement, or is it scattered throughout the day? Jack already answering there, saying injury reports are definitely the biggest one there. He's also wondering, do you recommend betting more or hedging throughout the week for NFL props? I mean, I'm personally more on the side of make your bet and move on. But if you do get the option to open up a massive middle, I mean, who are you to not take it, right?
Yeah, of course. But yeah, I wouldn't be hesitant betting early in the week by any means. Like make your bets the size you think you should make them, and move on.
Yeah, and I'm normally like, when I'm breaking down the NFL calendar, the great thing about it being a weekly event is you just have your daily thing for each day. Like Monday and Tuesday, you're waking up in the morning and you're betting those line movements when the limits go up. Wednesday, not necessarily doing too much. It's kind of an off day. And then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, you're starting to look at those prop markets as the superstar lines come out. And then the average Joe and the more down niche markets start coming out for the props as you get later in the week. And then by Sunday, you're betting NFL teasers, and you're really pretty much at that point calling it a day and getting ready to see how everything shakes out.
Yeah. With the exception, I would say, of just the super obscure role players that don't get released until Sunday morning. And I love looking at those props and hitting them.
Yeah. I mean, I was just talking about that for college with Chris K, about how you can seriously find some edges on the usage for these guys deeper down the depth chart. And
you really can. I mean, and think about it. Like, everyone knows CeeDee Lamb is going to get a bunch of targets. Everyone knows he's the guy that Dak is going to throw the ball to. There's no uncertainty there. Like, there's no, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, there's no, I don't know, hidden information basically, but, or no information gap. But for the guys lower on the depth chart, it does kind of require a more in-depth knowledge of the team and who's who and what their role is and how it's going to play out in this matchup, where it's not obvious. And so the books aren't setting them as well. And books aren't even caring as much, because who would you rather bet on? Peyton Hendershot or CeeDee Lamb? Like, obviously there's going to be more bets on CeeDee Lamb. They're going to care more about setting those lines. That's going to leave value for some of these other ones. But if you're betting, a CeeDee Lamb over and a Peyton Hendershot over, both plus 110, like, you're getting paid the same amount for either one. You don't get extra credit for betting CeeDee Lamb.
Exactly. And that's what you want to look at, because that's the thing. How many casual bettors don't understand about what you want to be betting and the things that you want to be looking for? Because the golden rule is, if you were to tell someone who doesn't really understand sports betting what you're betting on, and they go, "Oh, wow, you're a degenerate," you're probably betting the right markets, because those are the easier markets to attack. It's like when you say, I'm doing WNBA player props and I'm betting on the 4th string wide receiver for Alabama. It's like, this is the stuff that makes sense to attack, because it's the stuff not everybody's attacking and where you can actually gain an edge.
Yeah, no,
or it's time to call the hotline if you're just up in the middle.
There's really no middle ground.
yeah. It's one of the two. Either you're attacking with an edge, or maybe it is time to be hanging them up and calling the line. But Derek, it has been a pleasure having you here. Captain Jack is going to be joining us next, and then Jack and I are going to be talking in-game betting, and then we're going to be talking with Adam Bjorn as well. Very excited. We're kind of reaching the halftime of the stream right here. And again, thank you so much for being with me here today, Derek. Before we get you out of here, would you mind just telling people, you know the drill, where can they find you and the great work you're doing around the internet? And then we'll plug the EVA link one more time.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Derek Carty. I keep there should be a pinned tweet there where I keep a full track record of every bet I put out, so you can see how I've done historically. As the season goes on, you can see it. You can get the full set of projections, obviously, at EV Analytics. They'll plug into the Unabated Simulator. It's awesome. People are very, very happy when they get it.
Exactly. That's what it is at the end of the day. I mean, I'm so excited. I need to hit you up and get my subscription all set up for the next season here as we get ready for the Blitz. But I'm excited to be getting back to it here. And a reminder, we make it so easy for you to use the EV Analytics projections with the Unabated Simulator here. It is like cookies and cream, two great things that go great together. You get your simulation, you get your projections from EVA, link them up, sync your account here. They're going to load right in. You can fire them into the simulator and start making your plus EV bets today. It is super easy to do. And the best part is, right now, you can be able to take advantage of all of these fantastic tools at Unabated for the low price of $650 for the NFL season. Take advantage of the NFL early bird special. Grab your Blitz subscription as well, and you are going to be all ready for the season here. But in the meantime, Derek, it has been a pleasure. Thank you again so much for being with us. You guys can find Derek on our Discord as well, and of course on Twitter at Derek Carty. I'm excited. People can catch you this week. Friday, we are back for the Blitz. First episode of the season, noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. The chat's always bumping. I'm excited to get it going again. It is going to be fun. I'll see you there, Derek.
All right. Thanks so much. Looking forward to it.
Looking forward to it as well. Have a good one. And again, thank you so much for the time today. All right. We are hitting the halfway point of the stream here. Coming up next, we've got Captain Jack coming on. We're going to be talking about some of the tools here. And come on, it's Captain Jack. You know that he's all about giving that little bit of extra sprinkles of crumbs of information and knowledge that you want to be moving along, using the tools on just that next level there. And then we're going to be bringing on Adam Bjorn. We're going to be having a great time talking with him. Davis Mattek is going to be talking NFL DFS picks, DFS tools after that. It's going to be a great rest of the show here. But right now, you know him, you love him, Mr. Unabated himself, Captain Jack Andrews. Jack, how are you doing? Thank you so much for joining me here.
Thank you, Tom. Hope you're enjoying your Labor Day weekend. This should be fun. I'm not used to like coming in late in the broadcast, but
yeah, on the Super Stream, you're the one running the show, and then in here I'm happy. It's been great so far. Rufus was great. Chris was great. Derek was great. We've got some great questions from the chat here, and again, throw them all in as well. Keep asking them. If you've got questions for Jack, we are here to answer them. And we're going to be talking to Adam Bjorn in a few minutes. I'm really looking forward to that conversation as well.
Yeah, that should be good. We'll get his view on what they're doing on the other side of the counter this fall for NFL football. I have some good questions to ask him. Put him on the spot.
I am looking forward to that very much. But right now, Jack, we're here and we're going to be talking about a little more of the Unabated tools. Now, we want to talk about some in-game tools, but that, of course, comes with it a very difficult part of the conversation in that there is not in-game betting going on right now. So it's going to be a little bit difficult, but we are going to be doing our best to explain how some things work here, walk you through some things. I can control the screen. If you want to control it, you can share your screen here and I'll throw it up, whatever you want to do there.
Let me share my screen just because it'll be easier for me to
I think that will work much, much better anyway. And, we're going to be trying something a little bit new this season. Come this time next Sunday, I'm going to be trying on my best Scott Hansen impression. We're going to be using the Unabated tools live from maybe halftime to halftime of the week one slate here, seeing how we like it. Everybody can come in, hang with me. We'll be talking about some bets, looking at some stuff with the Unabated tools. And then at the end of the day, it's fun to sweat out that witching hour with some friends, crack open a beer, and just kind of enjoy it as a second screen experience here as we sweat out the week one games, and we'll see how it goes. But I'm very excited for that. But right now, let's walk through some of what we're going to be looking at here when it comes to the in-game tools. What are you excited about for this fall in Unabated here?
Yeah, so one of the things that beating the NFL is hard. We've established that for years now. It's really difficult to beat sides and totals without any kind of asymmetric information or, steam chasing, top-down betting, things like that. It's just a very efficient sports betting market. Well, as you get into different derivatives, the efficiency starts to wear down a little bit, and it becomes a little bit more of an approachable logic puzzle to solve. And we could talk about like alternate line markets and things like that, but even those are starting to get a little bit more solved, especially with the NFL being such the hot commodity that it is. But when you get into in-game betting, you have a couple different things at work that are in the favor of the player. The first one being the market is constantly moving. So there's really no such thing as closing line value. So for those of you who have gotten profiled from a sports book due to closing line value, a lot of in-game betting, they don't have that metric to use to analyze your play. So you're not getting profiled as much when you're making in-game bets. The second thing is the market's constantly moving and it's typically algorithm-based. And the fault of an algorithm-based market is they don't play these in Microsoft Excel. They don't play these games in Microsoft Excel. They play them on a field, right? Anything can happen. There's injuries that sometimes don't get immediately factored into an algorithm. There are game situational flows where, like if a team is up by 11 points and the trailing team scores, well, they're going to go for 2. But if the team that's ahead by 11 points, that a field goal is good enough for them. So there's dichotomies in how the scoring is going to play out in the game going forward. And you can take advantage of that by playing through game flow in your mind and using that to find advantages of maybe a sports book has priced this out without factoring in that 2-point conversion that is going to happen maybe 30% of the time with the trailing team and converting the 2, things like that. So one thing we do have the ability to do, or I have the ability to do, is kind of give you a little sneak preview of where you would find this. So if we were in the live screen, if there were games going on right now, you would go over to the calculator icon. And by the way, the live odds are only available at the premium tier. So this is definitely a premium product that I'm showing here. And you were to drop this down, you would have this live derivatives, alternate lines box here. And currently it doesn't have anything in it because we don't have a live in-game alternate lines model, but we are in the process of putting the finishing touches on a second half derivatives model. And what this will do is give you the ability to price out second halves based on our simulated data that takes into account, you know, the thousands of NFL games that we have in our database to simulate out what the proper pricing should be between half points. So in a situation where a team is ahead by 11 going into the second half, you know that there's a good chance that there's probably a 2-point conversion that's going to be used at some point, and our simulated data would take that into consideration and play that out. And so it's one of these things where there could be a lot of value unearthed in halftime betting. And halftime betting is just like in-game betting. We have a 15-minute window where there is a halftime in the NFL, and lines move quickly in that. And you can often find somebody that's, there might be a step out of line from the rest of the market when it comes to the second half bets. And this was going to be a great way to find an edge in those markets. So I don't have an exact timetable of when we'll have that live. We need to test it on some real world data in week 1, basically. And if it all goes well, it could be available by week 2, might be week 3. So it's an exciting thing coming.
It is very exciting. I'm looking forward to it. Now, a question that I have for you, and with the caveat of this is sports betting, there are no black and white answers. Everything exists in a gray area. When it comes to being a step out of line on these live markets, how far is a step out of line to where you're like, okay, this is something? I mean, the example that I always loved to cite was last year when I spotted how FanDuel had 3-1 on Chiefs money line in the third quarter of the Super Bowl, and the rest of the market was at 2-1. That's an egregious one where you can see that and very quickly go, okay, yeah, gonna go jump on this. But yeah, for you, when it comes to you're on the in-game betting screen, you're looking for those edges. What makes Jack's eyebrow raise a little bit and go, hang on a second, I might get this?
Well, you know, one of the toughest parts, Tom, is quantifying your edge with in-game betting. We know that, look, the 3 and the 6 and the 7 are worth so much on the spread pregame. That's pregame. That's not in-game. In-game is going to be different. It's actually going to be worth more if it's more likely to come into play. Whenever there's a question where you don't kind of know the answer, but you have to work it out in your mind, it's very easy to extrapolate it out into a bigger situation, or extrapolate it out into a more finite situation is what I want to say. So in a case of how much would the 3 be worth? Well, put it to like the 2-minute warning and one team's driving. How much is the 3 worth in a tie game? How much is the 3 worth there? Well, it's worth a whole lot because there's a good chance this game's coming down to a field goal. So the less time remaining in the game, the more a key half point could be worth. And that's one of the things that we first attempted to solve with our NFL in-game tool years ago. Wasn't quite, we didn't like the output. It just didn't, some of it, the fringe events didn't pass the muster. But the halftime, because it's a little bit more set of a situation on where teams are going to be starting, is a much more viable option for us. So, yeah, that's why the second half tool I think will be much better.
And when it comes to the you mentioned the key numbers changing, is that something where you might be looking at it like, for example, if the game is 10-7, like the scoring is maybe necessarily a little bit thrown off because now there's one team that's no longer maybe going by the base 7 because now they're going to be at 17 if they score a touchdown or 13 if they score another field goal. And all of a sudden Is that something that you're keeping a little bit more of an eye on when it comes to saying, oh, this half point might be a little more valuable than it's being priced out at?
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's the sort of the logic puzzle you have to work through in your mind. It's also why I don't think you can just look at an odds screen and beat in-game betting. You need to have a little bit of a knowledge of how the game flow is going. If you have 8 televisions, that's a good idea. Just kind of watch all the games at the same time to see what the in-game state is. Red zone doesn't really work because red zone's delayed. It's just, you're 15, 20 seconds behind when something actually happens. So it's really tough to do in-game betting based on red zone alone.
My personal strategy when it comes to that is, first off, yes, every game, the YouTube quad box is tailoring it so you've got every game. But then I leave one quad on red zone because what it lets you do is that's your reference box. Because, it's going to be delayed and you're not necessarily, like, you can't follow along with that for live updates and being able to get down. But it can tell you, oh, this team is getting into the red zone here, which means they're already in it. I'm going to go and I'm going to track that game on the other TV. So I like to use it as at a glance, I go to this game, I see red zones on this game, and I'm like, that's the game that I want to focus on right now. And I'll move over and start focusing on that here. I think that's definitely useful for it. Dave Clark also says, this is a great example of the NFL second half. I rarely make second half bets because I know I currently don't have the information to get an edge. Well, that is exactly what we are here to help you do when it comes to getting an edge on these prices, right?
Yeah. And, and the thing is, Tom, like, I don't want to discourage people, but taking the NFL on sides and totals is really tough. Number of sides and totals that I bet in the NFL in a course of a single season is probably under 20 the entire season. Mm-hmm. Just because it's really tough to find an edge on sides and totals. In game, maybe I definitely have a few more bets in game, but NFL's one sport where I prefer to be watching the game in order to be making a bet on it. Especially if I can see something that is not factored into like the game feed. So like if somebody was looking at Gamecast on ESPN online, they would not see this. Case in point, a couple of years ago, I was watching it was a Pittsburgh Colts game, Steelers Colts, and Ben Roethlisberger came off the field and he kind of held his elbow just a little bit, and they went to commercial. And I quickly was searching all over Twitter to find anybody and found a beat reporter say, Roethlisberger is flexing his elbow on the sidelines. He looks to be in some pain. And I put a bet on the Colts before they came back from commercial because I knew that really hadn't factored into anyone that was just following the game online.
Yeah, and that is exactly the kind of thing, those injury edges that that an algorithm isn't necessarily going to pick up are a great way that you can be taking advantage of some of this information and saying, oh, hey, wait a second, not necessarily priced in the line because you've got a beat reporter breaking the news almost that, oh, hey, this guy might actually be a little injured. There could be something major changing to this game state soon that's not currently factored in.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think when it comes to the NFL, I think that the thing that it provides hope to bettors is there are so many different ways to bet the NFL. That's the great hope of the NFL is that we just know there's going to be hundreds, thousands of different bets available every Sunday. And look, teasers, people have been crying that the teaser is dead for years. The teaser is still viable. We still have, let me pull up our teaser tool. When we first came out with the teaser tool, there was a lot of people that got very upset at us because they felt like it made it too easy to beat teasers. And it probably did. Anymore, like FanDuel especially, they come up as default here. You're not going to find a 3-leg 6-point teaser at plus 160. Yeah. You'll have to fill in what the prices are. And for FanDuel, they're not that great. But, if I were to go Caesars I know is 140 on the 3-team teaser now. It used to be plus 180 was the standard. Now then it went to plus 160. Now it's plus 140. Well, you can learn a lot about good and bad teasers by just playing in this tool. For instance, if we were to take the underdogs here and put them in, it's going to tell us this is a horrible teaser to make. And you look at this and you go, oh, okay, teasing 3-9 on Pittsburgh, that wasn't good, nor was it for Baltimore, which is, slightly different line, different total. But if you go the traditional Wong teasers, which are 2.5 to 2 to 1.5 to 2.5, and minus 7.5 to minus 7.5 to minus 8.5, and punch those in, it's not going to be a positive EV line. In fact, it's going to be minus 4%. But you could kind of play around a little bit and you say, well, that Green Bay, let's take the Green Bay out because that's a minus 3.5. And let's see, put the Cowboys in, and now we have that one down to minus 2 on that leg of the teaser. Still not positive EV, but you can kind of work these around. And then you shop. You shop out to other places. For instance, giving away a secret that probably somebody doesn't want me to tell, but BetMGM, 3-team teaser, still pays plus 160. So if you were to put in the Colts at 2.5, the Bengals at minus 8.5, and the Cowboys at plus 2.5, this works out to be a positive EV teaser and a pretty good positive EV play. And if you had, 4 different teams that fit this criteria, you could round robin them in 6-point 3-leg teasers paying plus 160 at BetMGM. Now, of course, if you're at BetMGM and you're making this bet, you're probably going to be limited. So this is a play for a kiosk somewhere. So you got to go to the BetMGM kiosks and put it in that way. But teasers are still viable. The thing with this teaser tool, I'm sorry to be monopolizing the conversation, Tom, but I'm giving you a little break.
Hey, yeah, I'm happy for it.
An hour and a half. This teaser tool works in all of these different markets that have pricing that people normally would just gloss over. For instance, what if you had a sports book that was 2 legs, and if you subtract 6 points, they'll make it a payoff 11-1. This actually does exist. So this is now what is called reverse teaser, or a pleaser, as some sports books have called it. And our tool still works exactly the same. It then does reverse. Well, if the value of a teaser is you move through key numbers, then the value of a reverse teaser is you move through non-key numbers. And the biggest non-key number is, of course, 0. The probability of a tie in the NFL is very, very low. So you go through situations like, okay, if we subtract 6 points from like let's go up a +3 over to make them a -3, put them in there, and let's see, we go 8.5 up to, minus 8.5 up to minus 14.5. Let's put that in there, and let's go. Oh, I only did two legs. You can see that like this is a fat edge, and you can find bets like these, and like this is stuff that people won't tell you about, but they exist, and you're not going to find these popping up on an odds screen somewhere. Like it's not going to be. There's so many top-down odds screens right now that like one of the things that I like that we're doing at Unabated is putting effort into non-odds screen tools that help you find the edges in bottom-up approaches. This is a bottom-up approach. You're using this tool to figure the math out of this, but you can find 22% edges on NFL sides. And here's the best part, you're going to find some places that even let you put this onto totals. So, I'm just going to pick out 2 random totals here, and you're going to find this is a fat edge.
Wow.
Because we're going basically teasing these under 43.5 and under 42.5 and paying 11-1 fat edge. So I don't want to disclose exactly where these are available at, but shop around.
Yep.
Shop. And, and that's the last point I'll make before I eat into any more time here. We've seen this summer a bunch of consolidation in the regulated sportsbook industry. There was just one yesterday. BetSafe out of Colorado is calling it quits. There is, for as much consolidation, there is also expansion into unregulated and into gray market areas. Look, I don't recommend everyone just go headfirst into unregulated betting because you have to really be careful. You have to protect yourself. You have to make sure you're not risking too much money into the unregulated spaces. But it is an expansion of betting in the United States now. And it's a great opportunity to find, look, these new places often don't start up with the greatest of highest paid bookmakers. Yeah. And so they're beatable. And if you can find the ways to use these tools to beat them, you can profit a lot this fall from that.
Now, one quick question here, because we are bringing on Adam Bjorn in just a moment. But Jeff Corner says, thank you, Captain Jet. My question is, do all plus EV sites use the same mathematical algorithm? And I can already tell you the answer to that is going to be absolutely not.
No, yeah. You'll find that you can use our live screen to see that the odds vary quite a bit in-game betting. Some people are faster. Some people have better algorithms, but there's a lot of shops where you can find 2 to 3 point middles in the midst of an in-game. My recommendation is to find the softer ones and hit them as hard as you can while you can.
Yep. All right. But now I think it's time that we bring on from Planetech none other than Adam Bjorn. Adam, thank you so much for being here with us today. Excited to talk some NFL with you. We really appreciate you joining us on this stream here. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Again, it's football season. So final Sunday without games on. Took it easy, went to the beach, and now it's straight into it. So yesterday was fun. Did some messing around with the RAS stuff in the morning. But yeah, I mean, bring it on. Let's take some bets.
It's a beautiful time. This is the last Sunday without football. We're done with Thursdays without football. I mean, in 4 weeks, we're going to be sitting here like, all right, this season's getting a little old on us. But for now, this is the exciting time. I'm all ready for it. And I guess like what is going through your week here? What are the last preparations that you guys are making when it comes to getting started and getting ready for the season to kick off here?
Really holding our breath. Like for me, it's the technology. Our biggest thing's always the early games to the late games, making sure you get the scores in, the bets are graded, and that everyone's got their money quick enough to bet the afternoon games. That's it. That's all I'm worrying about right now. These numbers have been up since, May, something like that.
Yeah.
There's not that much movement looking at the charts. There's probably 2 games with big swings or decisions at the moment. And then got a dog.
Jack's dog's excited too.
No worries. So yeah, I mean, the numbers are the numbers. They're not going to change much before next weekend.
So when it comes to this particular week, because like you said, these numbers have been out since May here. Like, how much of it is these numbers have been hammered into place now, and how much of it is there's been so much money coming in over the course of such a long period of time, but so much information has changed, so much uncertainty was in the market for a lot of this time. How does that shake out?
Yeah, you're just a little bit, but Jack sort of said it best earlier. For NFL sides and totals, I'm happy to be the house. Like, people that sort of wait for this and want to bet sides and totals, good luck to them. I've tried that many a times for a very long time when I moved to this side of the world, and it's tough. So, it's the numbers are up there, come get them kind of thing, and then we'll work it out. Sure, you've got your info team. You on top of that, I know spoke about earlier with the college, how many teams there is, and then you obviously ramp that up for college basketball when that time comes. But NFL news, generally, it's pretty readily available. And how much, apart from the quarterbacks, is there that much of a change in a line? And I think sometimes they overrate some of those injuries and whatnot as well. So I learned a long time ago, the centers were one of the biggest sort of changes of lines that the books didn't adjust to. But I think all that information and the data has been done to death. And, again, the NFL is the one thing where you just put up the lines, you take the bet, you adjust it, and you wait for the next bet, and you try and get those limits as high as possible, as quick as possible.
So, Adam, I tuned in yesterday when you were doing some live streaming, and what you were doing is you were waiting for a RAS release on college football, and then you were holding your line. You were basically taunting bettors to come on in, take the number at the number they gave. How did that work out for you? And are you going to keep on kind of doing that sort of thing going forward?
Yeah, that's the plan. I'd looked at it last year. Really didn't have the time to sort of dive into it. I've never looked at RAS. I've heard all the rumors and the buzzes and things like that. I know the traders see it when it comes in. I mean, I held the number until we took, I think, at least sort of a dozen or so bets. I didn't drop the limits yesterday. The idea was kind of to drop the limits and then, take a few more bets and then put the limits back up. I kind of just left the limits where they were, and, the people that came in. It wasn't as many as what I expected to come in, but we have enough assassins coming into Prime to, take a shot and pick which ones they are. But ultimately, the totals are definitely moving significantly. I think 3.5 points, a lot of them. The sides moved on the release, and then they slowly came back. There's definitely some books that overreact too quickly. But the idea is just to take some bets. I know they keep announcing they've done a deal with the book to sort of hold that number. We are not that book at this point. For me, it's just the fun and games of what I've been doing for, 25, 30 years or whatnot. And I think with all the other books moving so quickly, we'll get some opportunity for the and that.
It froze up there a little bit, didn't he? There we go.
Okay.
There we go.
Yeah, sorry, you froze up a little bit there at the end. You did look like you were having fun with it. I have to admit that. Like you just had this look on your face, like this is kind of, because they do that setup and then they cancel and all that stuff. That
was actually again, I'd never seen their stuff, and that was quite sort of amusing in how they do that and what people must be doing on the other end. And when there was like 3 cancels in a row, like, it's like, I guess, a junkie, like waiting for the shot and just never comes.
Well, what I noticed is there are a lot of sports books that when they do that setup and cancel, still move their line. They just kind of knee jerk, move their line and then have to quickly move back because now they're off market. So question for you on your approach to the NFL. I was just kind of going through some esoteric things that you can try to find that are out there for sports books. How willing are you to offer some of these non-meat and potato things, because the meat and potato is so strong with the NFL that you can kind of allow some of these other bets to be something to get people in the door?
Yeah, I mean, the alternative lines, again, I think we go a touchdown up and down, a field goal up and down. The props, definitely we lean into NFL props more than we do any other sport because, again, the numbers are pretty good, the information's strong. So it's just trying to offer as much as possible. We're definitely still, in a somewhat of a manual world with some of this stuff. So we're definitely looking towards automating a lot more stuff. Using the models to go into the player side of it like we do on the main game lines and things like that. And again, the idea is just to get numbers up, take the bets, move it, and then on the technology side, just keep getting better and continuing forward to ultimately take a lot of it out of the traders' hands where they're ultimately just watching and profiling. And then again, the numbers are there, the bets are coming in as quickly as possible. And then also making sure that, money in, money out, so people can get that in is another big aspect on a Sunday.
Real quick, we got a question from the chat here from Bob Rowan. He wants to know your thoughts, Adam, on moving lines for NCAA futures. He saw you made some huge moves the week before the season started when other books weren't moving as much. What was going on there?
That I don't know. I'd have to look at it and see what happened. But again, it's usually, we have it where the traders are allowed to have opinions as well. So we have people sitting on top of these sports. Maybe they got some information. Maybe they just saw something that they were like wanting to short something up or push others out. A lot of it these days, it's just we see the numbers Monday morning. We don't really care much about them. We see what they're like after a month, half a season, things like that. But we've been doing this so long. Our traders have been generally doing this so long that they have 100%, confidence from us to just do what they need to do. And like I experienced for like 10 years when I was at the Greek in Jamaica, I got maybe 4 calls a year when I had really bad results, explain it out and move forward. So, that's kind of the thing that we're trying to build with our traders as well.
So last year, Adam, you famously entered the Circa contests. Did you enter again this year?
I did. I have a full stack, 10 and 5, so I'm ready to go.
All right, cool. Because we have a contest that we're running with Unabated, both a pick'em contest as well as a survivor contest.
Yep.
The link to them is in the description. If you want to enter in, we'd love to have you. It's just a single entry.
I saw them this week. My plan is to enter them, and should I win something or whatnot, I will be giving away whatever that prize is, at the end of the season to somebody.
That's my plan as well. I'm entering, but I will be giving my prize away if I were to win it. I won't win it. I just have the worst luck with contests. I tell the story, but one year in one of the DraftKings $1 million contests, I had a path to win the $1 million, and it took the Colts blew a 24-9 lead in the third quarter and lost the game, and that would have won it all for me. But yeah, wow. Anyway, why do you think that those type of contests haven't caught on a scale outside of Nevada?
I think one, it's regulations. I don't know what is available in other states. I know there has been conversations. Obviously, what Circa's doing with how much money they're putting up at the beginning, that's sort of hard to compete against. I know DraftKings do some stuff. Again, I haven't spent a ton of time in the regulated market looking at other operations and what they've done the last number of years. But I think there's a hunger for it in other states. Again, it's much easier for Circa when they have a casino backing this stuff. Westgate's a little different, where they're a sportsbook that operate in a casino, but they're really out on their own. So it's really going to need someone with, a backing or to put up a number that gets interest, and then, cop the overlays early on, I imagine. But I've got to think something like this on the East Coast would definitely draw in a lot of money. I know Joe's sort of had some thoughts in his mind about how to get the Wall Street guys and some of these ones that think they're really good at this stuff, how to capture their attention and do something. But I think ultimately it's also coming down and getting something approved by the regulators on what you can do. Then I don't know what kind of technology or, secure platform you have to have for these contests to get that through as well.
Switching gears slightly, are you able to tip your hand as to when Prime will be posting their opening numbers for college and pro football?
So it was actually a conversation today. I think right now we're looking at Monday morning for that stuff for New Jersey and Ohio. We don't need to be up first with the clientele we have right now. So again, we can let the numbers settle Sunday, Monday, and then put them up. We definitely, as we go forward, want to get more aggressive. But again, right now, if we had 1,000 customers, 998 of them are assassins, and they don't mind waiting a few days.
And then me.
Yeah. So it's just, I think we come out in the first week of April with our chest out in New Jersey. We got slapped around a little bit, and it was like, come on, we just need to be sensible about this. We have no intention to be roadkill like so many others. So it's just, again, slow and steady. There'll be jabs and all these different things about our, $200 prop limits or whatever else. But, I'm not caring about that stuff. I'm actually enjoying the states taking the college props out of our hands. Because, again, that's a lot of work and something that you just get eaten away at in the beginning. But the goal is liquidity and just building this out step by step and hopefully still around in 10, 15 years.
I can't imagine what sports betting might look like in 10 to 15 years. Do you really want to be around 10 to 15 years?
No,
put up with a lot.
Yeah, I've really had to change my mindset to the US market. Obviously, we were just, when I was in the offshore 15 years ago, and that was really sort of seeing a small piece of what the actual market is. For us, again, I'm looking at 40-plus-year-old bettors. I'm not worried about chasing these 20-year-olds with all this gimmicky stuff and things like that. It's just that looking to build a safe out location for those ones that have been betting for, 15, 20 years. And, you get to take care of them for another, 15, 20 years. And that's the bulk market. I don't know if the rest of them are going to become as educated as I'd like them to be. I think there will be some point where the price sensitivity does become something, but maybe it's 5 years away. I don't know. So it's sort of just cater to the ones we know exist, the ones that want to have a decent bet, the ones that want to, again, the frictionless experience of money in, money out. And then again, the arbitrages, for New Jersey, that's been our best business. The first number I look at Monday morning is the golf, because I know that's 95% arbitrages with Sport Trade. And that's been great for us the last 3 or 4 months. So there's not a single sports book in New Jersey that I'm not happy being on the other side of any of those arbitrage bets. So we'll tackle what we know we can sort of offer that no one else wants to touch, and then build it out from there and see what we can grow this into.
I will say, I think if there is some hope for the younger generation, I think it comes from the fact that everything that we see from them, like especially the video game people, like everyone now really does try and win at everything they do. It's not just, I'm going to go and I'm going to play Madden. It's I got to learn the meta. I got to learn the optimal strategies and loadouts and everything like that. And I think that mindset and mentality is going to eventually one day start transferring over as they get a little older, have a little more disposable income, and start looking to other things like, oh, I can do sports betting and there is a meta. There is an optimal way to be doing this. I have some hope for the future. So I hope that can be the direction it goes and not the other way.
Yeah, and again, that's probably 5-10 years away. So we're just concentrating on what we have right in front of us now and then building that out.
Speaking of price sensitivity, so Prime is still minus 108 on each side, correct?
Yep, I believe now you actually have a choice. You can go minus 108 or you can go minus 10, and we have some kind of loyalty program that was just launched this week as well. We were getting a lot of pushback from some players that didn't care about the 108 and they wanted some kind of loyalty points or something like that. So we've managed to roll that out. In Ohio, we rolled out cash outs this week. New Jersey, it's in the lab, what they're testing and whatnot. So, we're adding some of this stuff. We'll add more as we go along. Bet builders, props, those kind of things will probably come next year. We're definitely looking at sort of new UI next summer and things like that. But again, for me, 64 Super Bowls in 40 days in the summer of 2026 is where I'm sort of just driving towards, and hopefully again 8 to 10 states, and we'll see how we're going by that stage.
And at least a couple odds screens by then, hopefully.
Yeah, so I've been dragging my feet. I know there's a few things popped up today on Twitter and whatnot, but it's not been a hurry for me. People will do the work, and for me, that sort of give them a little advantage right now. We did have some technical issues earlier on, but I think we've come out of those. So I would hope, Unabated and probably Spank Odds have those numbers sooner rather than later. I'll follow up again after the weekend. I know we have some scrapers that are sort of attacking the site a little bit and taking some stuff, but we always go to war with them again, trying to take down the traffic, because ultimately the traffic can hurt the experience for players trying to bet. So yeah, everything's a work in progress, but we're live now, which again, all the PTSD of all those years of not being live is sort of past us, and couple more states on the horizon, and we'll just keep chipping away.
And that's what you got to do. I mean, that's the definition of the gambling game in general. We're not here to take the big swings. We're here to chip away and slowly get up the mountaintop, right?
That's it. The little engine that could.
Now, when it comes to the actual NFL season, would you mind doing a little prognosticating for us based on what you've been seeing so far? Are there any teams that maybe people that are betting with you guys are a little bit higher on than what you've got? Is there anything that surprised you so far based on the bets you've seen come in?
Nothing offhand, but let me just pull up some stuff and see what I've got here in front of me.
I know I'm putting you on a spot a little bit there. I can banter a little bit if you need me to. Don't worry.
Yeah, I pulled up the games to sort of see what the games were for the weekend. The Browns and Dallas seems to be the highest volume game right now. You see what I've got here in the.
Jack will be right back. He's tending to the dog who's getting the dogs are already barking for the NFL season here.
The one thing that it seems like that people are believing this is a lot more open season than what the odds are saying. I'm seeing a lot more, you get your general bets on the favorites, but I'm definitely seeing some action on the lower end of the markets. So I believe there's a lot of opinion that it's going to be a very open market, open season.
Yeah, I mean, this seems like one of the more exciting seasons that we've had some great seasons. We've first off been blessed with some great Super Bowls over the last 20 years or so after many, many years of not having that great of a game there. But one thing that's great about the NFL is it is the more unpredictable sport until the Chiefs end up winning another title here. But it's not necessarily the team you think is going to win it at the beginning of the season. And it's just fun seeing the unpredictability play out, even from a casual standpoint.
Yeah, and I think the teams that have been strong previous years that are out the gate a little bit, Buffalo Bills definitely has a lot of friends this season. Baltimore Ravens, Kansas City, but again, I'm happy laying these teams at 4 and 5 to 1 at this stage. They're one injury away from just being wiped out. Again, the 49ers on the other side seeing some money. The Eagles, Steelers, again at big odds, have a fair amount on them. Packers and Texans are getting some interest. And then who we got here? And then the Detroit Lions, which is my new home team now that I'm spending some time in Michigan. So, I hope they run deep. I always like those teams that, I've been on this side of the world for 24 years now. So I liked the Detroit Lions, back in the day, and these underdog teams, which usually I'm on every year. And when I'm on them one year, they usually win the next year. Or within a few years. So I'm very good at getting on early, seeing the trend coming, but missing out on the money.
I'm a Jets fan, so I'm just ready. I'm just ready for however the disappointment's going to come this year. I know it's going to be unique and fresh, but I know it's going to happen.
It can't be any worse than last year. That's one thing, right?
You say that, but they always seem to find a way. You're like, we can't possibly get any lower than this. And then you're like, we found a new rockier bottom to hit every single time. So we'll see.
Yeah. It's funny because the more time I get to spend with Gary V in New York, and that's the first sentence as we cross paths is, what about those Jets? And I saw him about a week after the Rodgers thing last year. And the Jets fans, I could just see, just shattered. There was a depth of shattering that you just couldn't feel that pain.
I not gonna lie, I had a few friends actually have to physically call and check up on me. There were people doing wellness checks, and I was like, I don't blame you. It's a tough time right now. I'm looking at the pool, and it's looking real nice at the bottom at the moment. But hopefully we don't get there this year. Jack, do you have any more questions for Adam here?
I do. Here's something that I think sports bettors have wondered for a while. Is it better to bet on something other than the NFL on an NFL Sunday because all the top traders are focused on NFL bets, and you can sneak in something on baseball or another sport, and they don't quite notice the sharp bet come through?
100%. I mean, I've done that myself for decades. The liquidity's so good on a Sunday. The money's coming in. They're all looking at that. soccer traders get distracted on a Sunday because they're in the office pools or whatever else, stuff like that. The golf traders, again, are looking at it. Yeah, 100%. You know, I looked at my record and I found some stuff recently, and you know, I was like 80% of my bets were from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. on wherever the sports book was located. But Sundays, or when big events are going on and you go bet something else, 100% that's what you should be doing in the background of, especially the smaller books with the less traders and stuff, where they're really just getting that bet radar feed or just things coming in, and some of the live stuff, 100%.
Now, I'm curious here, and I get that this obviously isn't going to be something that directly applies to your operation, since you guys are very much like, bring them in. Like you said, you want to have the assassins and all that. But if you're someone who's maybe a little bit concerned starting out, you're hitting some of the rec books, and you're worried about limits, you're worried about your actions starting to get flagged, what are some things that you think some of these books are looking for that you can maybe throw them off the scent with?
Well, and those books look at it more now of the casino player. Like, first thing in, go spend a week in the casino. Just know what you're interested in losing to sort of build up that account. I think still the round robin parlays and things like that. But futures is where I think you have a great opportunity where you don't catch them until, 4 months down the road. And then when you do catch them, you catch them good and you make it all worthwhile. Someone had called me 3 or 4 weeks ago about they'd seen something in a different sport, obviously. And they were sort of explaining it out, and they didn't want to burn their account and things like that. And I'm like, this is the opportunity that, he could have made 6 figures if it all went to plan. The edge that he had was huge. And I'm like, burn that account. Like, if you're going to burn an account, take an opportunity where you're just going to, brain them kind of thing. And I think that's one of them is if you find something where you're betting a division or, an award kind of thing, best defender, rookie, stuff like that, like, just chip away. And again, you only need to bet $15 to $50 to, $60, $70 a day at 10 sports books. And then within, 3 or 4 weeks, they haven't really moved it, and you've potentially got a huge position on the horizon. This was something, going back 20 years with someone like Betfred, where literally every day I would log in, I'd find what I want. I'd bet like $20, and I'd bet it again, 5 or 6 books, spread it across different amounts. And then, I think one of them hit, I can't even remember what it was, but, you get them in one go, and then they kind of don't know whether you're lucky, whether it's your home team, whether it's, they're sort of summing up what it is, because it's not a clear thing where you just went after something. And when you're betting that, you can bet 2 or 3 teams. You might find some value in multiple teams, in the 60s or the 40s and stuff like that. So I think that's what, yes, you're putting up money for a long time, but I think that's ultimately where you can really just chip away, and you're getting your volume in, and they're looking at it and they're going, what the hell are they doing? Betting this stuff. And, then some bonuses come along and you do little things like that. So I think it's all about what your end goal is. If you're just trying, if you plan on doing this for some years, then, don't try and get it all at the beginning. Be patient, build it out, and then look for that opportunity where it's game changing for you, and then sort of go from there. And then the arbitraging stuff, again, I think, finding some weak spots in that, betting those big favorites when you can bet the underdog at a book that's not going to kick you out. Again, they just think you're square and you're just coming in at that stuff. So I think that's the other opportunity that's not really being done in the correct manner. There's a few people that I speak to regularly that are doing it like that. No good betting the big favorite with us and the dog with someone else and then hitting the dog and getting shut down.
Yeah.
Doing it the other way. And that's, it's really, again, you're doing this for fun for, an extra $1,000 a week or something, or you would love to do this for the next 10 years. Those are the kind of things that you just plot out, watch what everyone else is doing and saying, and sometimes do it the other. The other thing I think is not being done enough is there's a lot of books in the world. There's, I wouldn't be moving to another state if I was American. I'd be moving to another country. I'd be going to LATAM. I'd be going to, Europe and some of these things. And then finding a partner and then moving home. And then you have, a couple of parts of the world covered. I think that's, one of the things that's really not being taken advantage of as well.
I'm not going to lie. I've actually been considering something directly along those lines. So I might be talking with you a little more than that, a little bit more about that after we're done on the stream here. But for now, Adam, thank you so much for being with us today. We really appreciate the time. Best of luck on the season. And before we let you go, if people want to come and people want to get action down, where can they find you guys?
New Jersey and Ohio right now. Hopefully Arizona by Thanksgiving, and Kentucky, I believe, towards the end of the year or maybe January. We're just waiting to see how that plays out as well. Just come bet. The more bets we get, the better. That's the whole idea of this game.
Absolutely. And again, thank you so much. We really appreciate you being here. It has been an absolute pleasure, and I'm sure we'll be talking to you plenty more as the season goes on.
For sure. Anytime.
Have a good one.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Adam.
Take care. Later. All right, Jack, I'm going to say goodbye to you as well in a minute here, but thank you for keeping me company over this last hour. We've got one more guest to bring on here. Davis Mattek is going to be talking about some DFS tools, showing off what we have at Unabated, what he does, and a little bit more. We're going to be talking about some content plans as well. But right now, before we head out of here, I do want to say thank you guys so much to everyone who's been checking us out so far. If you haven't hit that subscribe button yet on the channel, do that real quick. We've already gained several subscribers since the start of the show. I was talking with Chris K earlier. I'm going to have to do something once we're done here. Might be in the realm of a push-up challenge or something based on the growth that we have. But everybody, be sure to throw your subscription in there. And if you want to take advantage of everything we've got going on in Unabated, head to unabated.com/pricing. Now until Thursday, when the games kick off and NFL Week 1 starts, you can take advantage of our NFL Early Bird Special. $650 is going to get you all of our tools, the premium package with every single sport. It's going to get you all of that all the way up to the end of the regular season. You can subscribe today at unabated.com/pricing. You can use the link in the description of this if you want to sign up for a one-on-one demo at calendly.com/unabated. It will be me on a Zoom with you, talking you through all of the tools, showing you how everything works. And of course, Jack, before we forget here, join our Splash, Survivor, and Pick'em contests now. It's $100 to enter, and there are going to be some fantastic prizes there for you. You can use the other links in the description of this video to get in on that. If they're not there, click your refresh page real quick and come back to us. They should show up for you. But thank you so much. And Jack, thank you so much for being here with me too. It's been exciting.
I didn't mention that we have our Survivor Optimizer,
yes,
as well as our Pick'em Edge tool. So you can enter these contests. We also have tools that you can use
to win the contest.
A lot of other Unabated subscribers will also be using those same tools. So sometimes there's a little bit of a contrarian theory where you have to use the tools, but then realize that other people are also using the tool. It's a lot of game theory stuff.
Exactly. But hey, that's part of the fun here. That's part of the fun with everything. But for now, Jack, I think we are all good. You can head out because we're going to be bringing in Davis Mattek here in just a second as we get ready to talk some NFL DFS and get people on their way. But thank you so much for being here with me. And I'll see you when we record our podcast this Tuesday. We're going to be talking with Ed Fang from the Power Rank, getting ready for the NFL season here.
Looking forward to it. Thanks, Tom.
All right. Thank you so much. And now it's time. Let's bring on Davis. Davis, we've saved the best for last here, my friend. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so excited for this season. I'm so excited to be working with you because we are going to be talking some great NFL content as we get underway for the season here. How are you doing, my friend?
Man, I'm doing phenomenal. We are right about on the eve of the season at this point. All the big best ball contests are closed. I've got a lot of that stuff underway, so it's all in on week 1 now. Now I'm starting to develop some opinions on these week 1 games that are not just being fed to me by a spreadsheet, and that is that's awesome. That is a great part of the season to be in, man.
We're finally here. We finally made it to the NFL regular season. I did my fantasy league, my home draft. We drafted yesterday, and it just, there's something about that when you're doing your final, the big league for you, the home draft, and you're just like, wow, the season is really back.
It's
Thursday,
magical.
We're going to have football. Monday, the Jets are going to find a new way to disappoint and scar me for life. It's fall. It's NFL football, baby. It's exciting to be here. But why don't we talk a little bit before we get into the DFS tools here? Let's talk a little bit about you, what you're going to be doing with us this season, and where people are going to be able to find some really great content that we're going to be putting out.
All right. Well, if anyone is not familiar with me, basically I've been doing some form of sports-related sports speculation content is my job for the last, I don't know, 15 years or so. Started out doing content with Roto Grinders and a site called Fantasy Insiders. Then I actually worked as what would be the right way to say it? I worked for an iGaming company in Europe, and I was essentially the salaries for the DFS games. That was my job to monitor those and make sure that they were right. It was a B2B iGaming service. And then after that, I did projections for dailyroto.com and then on-air stuff for like the last 3 years with SportsGrid. And I'm now fully independent doing my own thing, mostly on YouTube.
Yeah, and it's going to be exciting. You've got some YouTube shows planned for the season here, right?
Absolutely. So the thing that will be of most interest, I think, to our friends here, Friday mornings, I will be doing a sports betting show. It will essentially be me and Rich Rebar from Sharp Football. We are going to be doing what would be our super contest picks. It's effectively picking our 5 favorite NFL games against the spread. We've been doing that show about 5 years now. It's either year 5 or year 6 of doing that. First time it's going to be on YouTube. But then the big thing that I'm adding to the menu this year is Friday afternoons. We are going to be doing a DFS pick'em entry show for Underdog Fantasy. So basically, it's going to be me, and I believe Thomas is coming on the first week. Some weeks I'll have guests, some weeks I won't. But it's going to be going through using the Unabated tools, creating a bunch of pick'em entries, finding spots that are worth exploiting. One of the things I'm really looking forward to is using the simulation tool on the prop screen with basically like, I think this projection is wrong here, this projection is wrong here, or checking the projections against, checking the lines against some of the other projection sources that I use. Generally on NFL Sunday, I will load up a bunch of aggregated projections, which you can do actually in Unabated. Effectively, you can aggregate all the sports books against each other. So that I'm really looking forward to. I think that's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about Chris K and I at the beginning of this show 2 hours ago now. We were talking about using the prop simulator for college football, but it does work the exact same way where you can take an NFL player here. And the most common question that I get asked when we're doing any of our prop shows is, hey, what do you think about this guy to have like a 100+ yard receiving game or a 300+ yard passing game? Because people like hitting those moonshots, going for those ceiling plays. And it is so useful for figuring out stuff like that, where if you've got a guy with like, say, 19.5 completions and 244.5 passing yards projected, and you can literally just hit the simulate button here, and it's going to simulate it out across 10,000 games for you and show you, hey, here's the breakdown of all of this guy's prices, where he should be, so that you can start looking, and it even will break down like, oh, his 300+ yard passing game odds are right up here. You can see the distribution. There's so many different unique tools and unique stats that you can pull out of something like this. And it can be so useful for people, right?
100%. And I mean, that is a really new thing that they're doing in the DFS Pick'em game on Underdog, is that they're basically this year, actually, I've really noticed them kind of rolling this feature out the last 2 weeks or so, where they're kind of adding a little bit of a customizable experience for it. So I noticed it actually doing college football stuff yesterday is you can pick either side of the touchdown. So they're offering both sides of touchdowns,
that's
very big. That'll help them balance out their liquidity. It'll make the line a little bit sharper, which is, good information. Sometimes I think depending on the sport, but sometimes Underdog could be a sharper line than whatever sports book you happen to be on. So I think that is, that's a little bit interesting, but also something I expect them to add over the course of the year is what they call it scorchers on the DFS Pick'em app, where we'll be able to run this simulation for that. We'll be able to what is the likelihood that Dontavian Wicks gets 97 receiving yards, or over 99 or higher than 99.5. receiving yards for the Green Bay Packers in this game against the Eagles. I mean, the true odds of that in this game, I'm going to guess, are like 8-1 or something, 7-1 or something like that, probably. Which I would imagine Unabated is probably the only place that you're going to be able to start to factor in those numbers on top, like, which is, I think, going to be really unique, because that is a great way to play. Especially, I'm in a pick'em champion state for Underdog Fantasy, and that is really because that's peer-to-peer gaming effectively, and so a lot of the times you are just going to be playing against people who don't have access to this. They're kind of just blindly firing because there's not actually a tool to send that out other than on Unabated.
Yeah, and the other cool thing, if I'm understanding what our engineers are saying correctly, which is a little bit of a gamble, but I'm fairly confident in it, we are working right now to make it so that natively in the DFS Pick'em tool, which I'll pull up right here, we're working to natively get those single-sided markets, like the extra boosts and the higher lines, things like that. We are working on pricing them in so that you can automatically have them all set to go in here. But to bring up the tool right now and show you how it works, the first thing that you do when you go to the DFS Pick'em is you go and you're going to select your site. So if we want to be over on Underdog there, then we're going to go and we're going to be selecting out our projections here, where you want to pull your numbers from, what you want to be doing with them. Nothing for MLB, of course. And then we also have it for college football and even WNBA here. But right now, just showing you the NFL features. All you do is hit next, and then boom, it is already going to be showing you all of these edges here. And walk me through your process. Where are you going and what are you doing? What are you looking at when it comes to building out some of these entries here, Davis?
All right, so I've been playing around with this a fair bit. Now, you would have no way of knowing this, Thomas, but the top line here is just wrong. I would not bet this at all. This Greg Dortch, low-key, one of my favorite players in the NFL.
Everybody's getting Dortch pilled right now.
Everyone's getting Dortch pilled. Someone in my Discord earlier posted this line, this Greg Dortch receiving lower, and I was like, dude, you do that again, you're banned. No shot. But I start to think about where projections are likely to be fragile in week one, because projections in week one are going to be the worst. It'll be the worst R squared to actual outputs of any of the 17 weeks. We're making a lot of assumptions, a lot of good assumptions. I'm not saying you can just blindly bet a lot of these or blindly throw them in your DFS pick'em entries and win. But I think you need to start thinking through, okay, well, how could I lose Jerome Ford higher rushing yards? Well, the first way you could lose it is if Donta Foreman is much more involved than you would think he would be. So then you need to start thinking through that. I think an example of one right here on this screen where I would not include this in one of my entries. I think that this is volatile enough that it's not bettable even at this edge, which would be Javonte Williams lower on receiving yards, because I think that's making the assumption that the market is giving most of the passing downs to Jaleel McLaughlin, which I think is a smart guess, but I think that is particularly with an 11.3 yard projection. That's basically like a 1 point. If you look at his career yards per target, that's like a 1.7 target assumption, something like that. And I could see that being wrong like immediately. Like I could see watching one drive of the Broncos offense against Seattle and being like, I mean, that's just really not right. Sean Payton, he's been at called plays for 17 seasons. He has never once been outside the top 5 of running back targets of a team in the NFL. So, going all the way back to it, that's just what his offense does. That's kind of what Bo Nix does. Bo Nix throws about the prettiest screen pass you've ever seen. So that would be a great example of one where I'd be like, I think the base assumptions, not even that they're wrong, not even that the market is wrong or that the people doing the projections are wrong, but I think it's too volatile for it to be a spot to attack. Now, the converse would be the guy right below him, Kamara. I totally get what the projections are saying there. I totally get what the market is saying there, which is this is a guy who is 29 years old, coming off a career low in efficiency. That actually is a spot where I just agree with everything that the inputs are saying. So I think it is bettable.
And when it comes to some of these projections, the other thing, like going back to my conversation earlier here with Derek Carty, it depends on the projection source you're using as well.
Of course.
I loaded in preloaded number fire numbers here for this.
Yeah.
I would certainly not advise anyone who is watching the show right now to be just going, oh, look at all these edges that he's showing me right here and just boom, 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 building an entry out of these right now. You want to know what's going into your projection source. You want to know that you're feeling comfortable with it. And when it comes to projections, you buy free, you get free. You're better suited searching the market to find a solid projection source that you want to use. And then you're right, Davis, there is a good element of not just blindly entering these and building up a 6-man entry and then going, okay, we're all good to go. It is important to think about some of that history and some of those things. And I'll tell you firsthand, I cannot tell you what is going on in a lot of these backfield situations that we've got. And I think that's going to be one of the biggest questions for week one. Like, the fantasy world was on fire for Kamani Vidal, and then it was, oh, he's going to return punts, and then everyone's off him. Or Kyron Williams is returning punts now. Like, what on earth is going on in the Rams backfield? Some of these backfields are making no sense to me. And do you think that that's going to be something that's going to provide some major advantages to people in week one here?
I mean, particularly in these pick'em entries. And I mean, this works in props too, but you are sometimes, if you're very sneaky, you can get by the anti-correlation negation that they do. Mm-hmm. So a great example would be, we get a little bit closer. I mean, we're a week away now, so the menu of the DFS stuff is going to be a little bit limited, but there will be some spots like that where, for example, I was just talking about Javonte Williams. You could do higher on Javonte Williams receiving yards and lower on Cortland Sutton's receiving yards. But even in the same backfield, assuming that Kamani Vidal is active when the Chargers play on Sunday, which I'm fairly certain he will be, you could do Gus Edwards rushing lower, Kamani Vidal rushing higher, and you will receive no penalty from that. So even like if you were doing a same game parlay on DraftKings, you're going to get different odds from that than if you're doing a same game parlay on FanDuel. You're going to get different odds from that based on what you're doing in these DFS pick'em games. And assuming that my experiences from last year are true, you're going to get a better price on those correlated, but the computer can't really tell it's correlated plays in the DFS games. If you do that on DraftKings, you will get nuked in the same game parlays.
Yeah, and you do got to watch out for that a little bit, but it also is, I mean, Plus EV Analytics has been talking about correlated parlays and what you want to be watching out for a while now. And there is very real alpha and very real opportunity on these DFS sites, right?
100%. I mean, they will kill you sometimes you can't even correlate some plays. Mm-hmm. So like, for an example would be this college football game that's literally kicking off right now. If we went to go create a DFS entry for this game, we could not do Newsmeyer passing yards higher and CJ Daniels receiving yards higher. But we could do CJ Daniels to record a touchdown and Garrett Newsmeyer higher. So you just have to think through how you build those. I mean, some great examples for that of week one would be rated out positive here. Josh Allen higher passing yards. So Josh Allen higher passing yards and Trey McBride higher fantasy points. Trey McBride higher receiving. You just think through what would have to happen in this game for this to come to pass, and then what would that do for the game state of the other team is kind of the way I like to think through a lot of these entries. And I mean, you couldn't know, I couldn't know before we start to plug it into their odds what the system is going to catch in the DFS pick'em game and what it won't. You have to try it out and see what price you're given.
Exactly. Top picks in the chat saying the site Dabble allows you to stack 3 teammates for 25x for their 6-man plays. It looks like that's very interesting.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, shout out to them. I will just say I'm a very simple man. I have my process. I know, and like, you know, if people do watch a lot of the show, they'll I take a much more cavalier approach to betting on sports into these games than Captain Jack and Carty and all these guys. Like I've been betting on sports. I've been doing this stuff all for a long time, but my main bag is fantasy. I love DFS. I love season-long fantasy. So sports betting for me is really fun. And that's actually like having access to a tool like this obviously makes it more fun for me because, Ed Miller talks about, well, if you're getting a good price, if you arbitrage out a good price, you can mostly just bet hunches. If you create a low hold environment, you can kind of get away with betting hunches, which it's kind of what I would describe my strategy as. But it is very nice to know, actually, to tell you the truth, my process is kind of like I get 3 plays from the Pick'em tool on Unabated that I really like, that I'm like, oh, sure, that makes sense. I look at it, makes sense, boom, put it in the slip, and then the other 2 plays are generally our field plays. I'm like, this I think is kind of my spot. The results have been good, obviously for football and for soccer. Not hot for Major League Baseball because it's just it's like baseball is so insanely variant. But also I've been doing the 8-leg ones in baseball. Yeah, because why? What am I going to do if I'm betting on baseball in August, man? It's got to be 8 legs.
Yeah, you are. Oh man, you are really hitting the variance train there. I've talked about it so many times on various shows and everything about just what makes baseball so tough is that you've got a 162 game season. You've got a very large sample size that you get, but in each single instance there, you've got maybe 3, 4, maximum of 5 attempts that you're going to be getting. So it's so day to day, insanely high variant. It's not like the NBA where you have 82 games and you get to say, well, I'm also getting like 100 possessions per game. And you're able to just have such a smoother variance curve here. Football is kind of like in between because you have a high play count, but then it's coming down to how many times players are going to get targeted. You have a smaller sample size for the season, but it is still, you're dealing with some larger numbers, especially on these on some of these yardage props and everything like that. Do you have any props in particular that you like to take advantage of here?
I would just say from my perspective, the ones that I have had the greatest success with last couple years or so has been receiving yardage ones where, so if you think about it, receiving yardage should happen on the way it projects often is going to be a very normal distribution. Like if we were to get inside Carty's computer and start to look at how he projects these guys, it's going to be, well, 25% chance of 75 yards, 30% chance of 80 yards, so on and so forth. But then if you think about like receiving yards are actually more event based, but they're projected iterative. So it's like rushing yards totals are going to be more iterative. That is going to be, you're going to feel a lot of the times that the final number is going to get closer to the actual. But I think about receiving yards kind of like home run props, maybe, where it's more events based than iterative because one play can change that from a bad number to a good number. And so I kind of like to think about spots, Jamar Chase is a really good guy for this, where his median doesn't really capture the way that he generates value for his team or for bettors. And then the converse would be, we were just talking about guys like Greg Dortch, Lad McConkey, Keenan Allen, these guys who play much closer to the line of scrimmage where their average depth of target is going to be below 10. That is kind of a spot where, I probably just would not bet those very often. I think a lot more about some of these high target, high ADOT guys. And I love them specifically for these pick'em games because you can add the Scorchers for, over 110 yards, whatever, or you can add them in with their quarterbacks as well.
Now, Nitish has been with us through the entire 2.5 hours of this stream here. So I want to reward him with what might be the last question that we have here. He wants to, do you ever do any DraftKings pick 6 stuff, or are you mostly sticking to Underdog and maybe a little bit of Prizepicks? And if so, what is your strategy more on the pick 6 side? Because the pari-mutuel payouts does throw a little bit of a wrinkle into it.
So it does. I will say I'm a partner of Underdog, so I don't play on those sites anymore. I have. To my understanding, DraftKings kind of nuked their game for edge grinders because the pick 6 game used to have static lines. Mm-hmm. So they'd open it at Jamar Chase 88.5 receiving yards, and every person on the app could hit higher, and it would stay at 88.5. And now, I think this is the right way to run the market, but now it moves. Now it moves the same way that the Sportsbook number moves. So I think The one thing that maybe you would have wanted to have about pick six is kind of nuked from the game. And then to my understanding, Prizepicks is a very big site. A lot of people, I literally don't even have an account. I just have never, like I said, sports betting for me is very vibes based. Like I really love it, but I don't feel the need to, like, you know, and obviously you would never advise this if someone was really trying to grind out a profit, but I'm never trying to arb the difference between pick six and underdog and Prizepicks the way I would, obviously, if I was like, well, I'd like to bet Oklahoma -3 in this game, and I would not just take Oklahoma -4, the worst of it, but for the DFS stuff, kind of just vibing.
And hey, like that's the thing with the tools and everything that we have at your disposal. Even if you do want to take a vibes-based approach, like you mentioned, you're still filling out, like taking 3 guys that are coming from the data sources that we have and things like that. And it can just help you increase the vibes. It can help you be smarter, be sharper, and use a little bit of a data infusion while also keeping in mind some of the less quantifiable stats and stuff that just keeping your finger on the pulse can help you get an edge on, right?
100%. And I mean, like I said, I take fantasy football super seriously. Like,
Yeah.
I'm going to be there on Monday morning watching all the tape. Like, I'm going to be like, oh, I know Samaj P. Ryan ran 9 pass routes and Pacheco only ran 8. And that stuff has a huge overlap with sports betting. So I would say for NFL specifically, I would be like, I could beat the market. Like, if I could live in a world where I would never get limited or whatever, I could beat the market for sure at player props, which I assume is probably the same for everyone listening to this. But, you know, the other fun thing is that, like, it's a Saturday afternoon. We've got WNBA, we've got soccer, we've got baseball, we've got college football. Like, the fun thing that I've been doing is loading up the 8-slip DFS pick'em entries with, like, just the top 8 plays from the tool, period, no matter what the sport is, which is a very good time.
Yeah, that is definitely a very fun time. And oh man, the WNBA stuff has been so much fun to use on Prizepicks. That's actually how I kind of opened up the window and showed my parents behind the curtain of, hey, this is what we do over here. This is what we do, because I had to have my dad set up a Prizepicks account in California since I can't do them out here in Nevada, and he makes plays now and all that stuff. And I've gotten him introduced to Underdog as well. It's very funny. I'm creating a fiend, and it is terrible in the long term, but hey, we're winning money on it, so it's working out. And they're finally anytime he comes into Nevada, he's like, okay, I'm going to load up my BetMGM account right now. What are the plays today? What are we doing? And I'm like, it doesn't quite work like that, but I'll explain it. But Davis, thank you so much for joining me here. We are hitting the end of the stream right now. It's been an absolute pleasure. And again, one more time, where can people find the shows you're going to be doing this season? So excited for all this coming down the pipe.
Yeah, very simple. YouTube.com/Davis_Mattek. The Friday afternoon show is going to be exclusively Unabated tools. I assume the Friday sports betting show as well is going to be. I'm going to have the Unabated odds screen pulled up. We're going to be sniping off some of the best lines and all that stuff. But that'll be of most interest to this audience. But if you need help with any of your fantasy football teams, there's all that stuff there as well. And patreon.com/Davis Mattek for all the premium fantasy football content.
Yeah, I'm excited to be tuning into your show with Rich too, because I mean, you and Rebar together is going to be a fantastic combo. He's been a guest on a previous podcast I used to do. Another awesome dude in the space. That is going to be a very fun show. Very much looking forward to it.
100%. He's the man. He's been doing podcasts with Reeves for about a decade. So it's just very, every day it feels like a blessing to be able to get to do what you love, man.
Amen to that. Like, that's the thing. None of this has felt like, I just did a 2.5-hour stream here on a Sunday. And you know what? Not a second of this felt like work, because it's fun. We get to talk about sports for a living. We get to just go out here and do this and have a good time. And it's about to be the best time in the season for it. I can't wait for this week. It's been an absolute pleasure. Davis, I'll say goodbye to you here, and then I'll do my final sign-off spiel for everybody. But again, thank you so much for your time today, and I am so looking forward to working with you this season, man.
Hey, I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much, and I will see you next Friday, dude.
See you next Friday. Can't wait. Take care, man. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for us here. We have made it to the end of the show. I am very much excited to be making a trip to the bathroom right after this. But for now, before we say goodbye, I just want to say, first off, thank you all so much to everyone who has tuned in here. If you haven't thrown us a like or a subscribe just yet, please do that. We're up to almost 800 subscribers here on the Unabated Live channel. I would love to get up to that number. We were at 755. We're at like 772 right now. So we're feeling pretty good about that. Won't hit the 800 by the end of the show, but hey, please make sure to smash that subscribe button and tune in all season long, because we have so much great content coming to you this season from the prop shows that we're going to be doing. Again, 11 a.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. Eastern time. I'm going to be on with Chris K every week. We're going to be talking through the college football slate. This is all on Fridays. Right after that, Derek Carty and I are going to be on doing the NFL prop show with his numbers for the Blitz from EV Analytics. That was a great show last season. We loved all the support you guys showed us for that, and we'll be right back here with it again this year. Davis is going to be doing all of that great content, using all the Unabated tools as well. And of course, we've got the Unabated podcast, and every Sunday, well, hopefully every Sunday, we're going to see how it goes through the first couple of weeks. So if you guys show up and show out, we'll be doing it every week. But I'm going to be trying my best Scott Hansen impression. We're going to be doing a red zone style show here where I'm going to be talking through all of the games going on as we go through the witching hour. And we're going to be using the Unabated tools in the meantime to be trying to find some in-game betting, try and find some value, make us the second screen experience for you for your NFL Sundays right back here. Just click that subscribe button. You'll know when we're going live. And of course, for all the awesome tools that we have here at Unabated, go to unabated.com/pricing. Our NFL early bird sale is still going on up until the kickoff of the season on Thursday night. For $650, you're going to get every single tool, all of the NFL Unabated premium package, which is all sports, not just football, but you're going to get it through the NFL regular season all the way up to the early January end of week 18 for $650. It is one of the best deals you're going to find all year on our tools. It is fantastic. And last but not least, I want to remind you all, our Splash Survivor and Pick'em contests are live right now. It's $100 to enter. There's going to be an overlay. You're going to have great prizes that you can win. You're going to have a lot of fun with them. And it's going to be all Unabated folks in there. We're all going to be having a great time with it. So please sign up today. The links are in the description of this video. For now, that is going to do it for me. We will be back here on Friday with all of our prop shows, getting ready to blast off the season. But for now, thank you all so much for being with us here today. It has been an absolute pleasure. Brooke, KGB, I see you in there. Dave Clark, I see you there. Thank you guys so much. Nitish, thank you for being with us through the whole show here. Bob, Jeff, Top Picks, so many people in here. Eric, Andrew, I'm trying to name off everybody. Casey, it has been a pleasure to you all. Thank you all for being here with me through this show today. I hope to see you plenty more over the course of the season. But for now, that is going to do it. Go enjoy the LSU USC game. We'll be back with you next week. And in the meantime, best of luck, everybody. And let's cash some tickets. It's going to be a great season. We'll see you next time. Take care. Have a good one. And be sure to check out unabated.com today.